Hello, everyone.
Oh, we're starting.
Perfect.
Oh, it's a bit delayed. This is fun. So we are live now, right?
Yeah.
Never done this before, so clearly, but Maggie's been such a great help. So we are live.
Hello.
This is Maggie. She's been on our Provenance team for the past 2-3 months now. So very exciting. I'm Peggy, chef, founder, Grassroots Initiatives. So thank you for joining us today. This is my first time doing a live, so it's really weird experience, but it's good to try everything out once at least. So thank you so much to everyone who has really put your energies into helping us fundraise over the last 2 months. We are literally down to our last 3 days. Can't wait. Can't wait for all of this to end. So it's been a long journey. Chrissy, who is the one who's been behind managing the whole campaign on Kickstarter and also the events on Eventbrite, has been incredibly helpful and super innovative and design thinking. So it's really helped kind of balance our team. Maggie here has been kind of just dropping in whatever she can help. So she's been doing a lot of video production for us. And then Meiji in the back, behind the scenes, doing all the design work for the cookbook. So when I first started on this crowdfunding, I just really didn't think that it was going to take so much energy. I honestly thought that, it was just gonna like kind of flow and people would understand it and get it. But the whole mechanics of crowdfunding is so new. But it was also a really great way, a great pilot to test our Foodprint model. So why I decided on crowdfunding rather than just getting a publisher in or putting a bunch of money into publishing the cookbook, because it coincides with our plan to roll out Foodprint, which is an NGO in the States, but now we're going to bring it into Asia. And the whole model is really to pledge 1%, get all restaurants to pledge 1%. So diners are paying 1% at the end of every bill, and that money will help fund regenerative and carbon sequestering projects in Hong Kong and regional. So we're very excited. We have over now 400 backers that have backed us. We are about down to our last 9% that needs to be funded. So around $30,000 left. And everyone who's increased their pledge in the last week, thank you so much. It's really, really meaningful and help kind of get us through that finishing line. And donors who have come in with a bit higher pledges, thank you so much. Shout out to Ecomarine, Keilem, thank you so much, everyone. And we're going to be soon announcing our distribution partners as well, so that will be exciting. One of my friends, Chris Scary, shout out if you're watching. If not, I'll send this clip to you later. He said something the other day about hoping this will help get us past the finish line. And I thought that was really meaningful because he got it. He understood what crowdfunding meant. It's about us. It's about all of us putting a little bit of energy at scale. At scale, we can actually achieve a lot more rather than waiting for the higher powers to save us. So I think that's quite meaningful. And so now Taste of Provenance came about literally like mid-January, right?
Yeah, we didn't even foresee this coming. It was literally something that we decided afterwards, after the Kickstarter campaign has gone live, that we wanted to do a series of talks and a program around the campaign so that, a lot of us could get more educated on a lot of the stuff that Peggy is quite well versed in, and also other people like people from the TEDx climate activist group.
Yeah. So we decided to put together a series of cook-alongs. So Zooming with friends, cooking, and chatting about things that we care about. So hi, Saul. Oh, I see Saul. Saul's from WWF. And So yeah, what better way is there to just Zoom, cook with friends, the new normal, right? And with every single series, there's a kind of theme to it. So with Cherry, which kickstarted our first session, was really on local organic and why we need to be more mindful about our tracing and sourcing our ingredients. Cherry's been such a fundamental and inspiration for me, fundamental foundation and inspiration to me. And it was in 2017 when I first started to go in this deep dive rabbit hole journey, figuring out how I can actually do better in my establishment, how I can utilize numbers and stats and measurement tools to actually be able to measure our impact within the kitchen. And she was going through a very similar journey at the farm. So it just really kickstarted this like real exciting part of our growth. And Shelley, who we invited to talk about industrialized meat and how cell-based meats will become a norm as well in the near future. And Shelley documented or produced a film, Plan Eat, back in like early 2010. So she was definitely one of the pioneers, and it was watching through that documentary that inspired me to open Grassroots. Yeah. So today, I'll just quickly go through the rundown of the events, starting with an intro to pantry staples, which is one of the big sections of my cookbook, Provenance. And then we will go into sourcing local. So we have all of our friends at TEDx Countdown, all the speakers that I got to meet or have known over the years, who came in to really just put so much energy into it. And thank you so much, Keilem, Tanja, Lance, John, Ollie, all of you for putting your energies into it. It was so much fun just bringing them out to the farm and working with Joey at Zen Organic to share more about regenerative and organic farming in Hong Kong. And then the third session will be the black box.
Yeah. A reveal of the different vegetables and edible flowers from the garden, from the farm. So you will see what we've decided to make.
Yeah, it turned out really good.
Yeah, super good. So stay on and tune into that later on.
Yeah.
And then that will be followed by a live panel with Peggy Chan from Mushroom Initiatives, and then Anthony from Zero Footprint, as well as
Janice from Honestly Green,
yes,
one of our earliest allies who started Islandese markets. Honestly, every Sunday I was at Islandese markets selling my jams and nut butter. So really grateful to have this awesome bunch together. And then finally, we'll wrap up with a little bit of pizza making. Have to give a shout out to Jess from Myint as well, who was our previous pastry chef. And so she sponsored the sourdough doughs for our pizza. So thank you so much. And that's it. We will leave the last session to kind of Q&A, but feel free to send your questions and your smiley faces and your I don't know, your strong elbows emojis out. And I look forward to a really great day with you.
Enjoy.
Hi everyone, so we're very happy today to have Joey from Zen Organic Farm invite us to Zen. So excited because we've been working with Zen for the last 10 years, and it's just incredible to see how big it's grown and how productive this farm actually is. So today I invited all my friends who are climate activists and all working for the cause to create a healthier, more sustainable planet. And so our first session here, we're going to talk a bit about pantry staples. I personally believe that one of the first we can all individually do is to switch out our diet to a more sustainable and plant-based diet. But one of the easiest ways to do that is to really give your pantry, especially during the Chinese New Year, a nice clean. So you want to refresh it and to bring some more nutrient-dense ingredients into your pantry. And so the reason is because, you know, when we're cooking or when we're preparing food, what we can easily reach for is generally what's going to feed. And so sometimes if you stock up your pantry with things that are like, you know, hydrogenated oils or kind of processed refined sugars, it's actually not as good for us. So today we have Keilem here from Eco Marine. Eco-Drive. Keilem here from Eco Marine, and also Tanja from Sustainable Asia. I don't.
A lot of things.
On a lot of things. And then, so we're gonna tell you a little bit about pantry staples.
Cool. So what do we have here, Peggy?
So this is just different forms of sugar. Normal sugars that are used in commercial kitchens are processed, highly refined. So that means this kind of white sugar here is highly processed refined sugar. Sugar can actually be really good for us. Okay, there's so many different types of minerals. Like dates itself has like vitamin A and fiber. That's actually good for us. So for anyone to say like, don't eat so much sugar, don't eat so much salt, our body needs it. We crave for it. We want fats. We need our, you know, more than 6 of our brain is fat. So there are things that really helps us thrive. But it's about choosing the right forms. So instead of the sugar that is completely depleted of any nutrients, I choose more cleaner versions of sugars. Here we have a coconut sugar, and this is a form of coconut nectar. So before it becomes a sugar, the farmers harvest the nectar from the coconut tree, and then it's basically like maple syrup.
Yeah,
so there's
like
no
that,
yeah, there's no like there's no processing. It's just dripping sap.
Where can you get this from?
So anywhere, really, it's actually available anywhere now. Like 10 years ago, I wouldn't have thought so, but it's available anywhere. This is specifically Nut Co. So they harvest from Thailand. So a farm in Thailand, and they were trying it out with me. You can see that it's crystallized.
Yeah,
because
that's yummy.
yeah,
That part.
it's crystallized. It hasn't been processed. It hasn't been heated, and so nature does that. You know, it grows. It does funky things. You know, like fermented foods, all funky. So, great thing about coconut sugar, low glycemic of 35, which is really, really great. And then again, it has this additional benefit of different types of minerals and vitamins. I'm not a nutrient, but like from eating this type of stuff for 20 years, it's just natural. Honey, this I got from Joey's pantry. So they harvest their own honey, and it's very, very rare. So it's great to even have one.
So how does that compare to the coconut in terms of sweetness and how much you need and how you use it? Are some better for heating or than others?
Yeah, even with just like normal sugar, I wouldn't want to heat it so much. Like this type of clean processed, non-processed sugars, I would want to have it as clean as possible.
Because the heat changes the chemical composition.
Exactly.
So you add it near the end.
Yeah. So any kind of dressings that honey is great for, like, you know, honey lemon water, just to drink ginger honey waters.
And there's quite a lot of honey you can get in Hong Kong that is locally made.
Is it?
Well, that's what they say.
Apparently.
It's less and less now, I believe.
Yeah, a little bit though, yeah. You can get.
Yeah. So also Yacon syrup. This is another form of sweetener, very low in glycemic. So, you know, yacon is from more of a South American heritage. So people are finding these ancient ingredients that are actually really, really good for us. And so we're bringing those ingredients back. Yeah.
So would that really have more of an impact in terms of import and transport and, you know, sometimes when we think we're doing something good by demand for avocados or demand for quinoa, we're actually disbalancing certain parts of the process. So I guess in this context, perhaps we've grown coconut and the honey would be a better option, do you think?
Anytime we support local, it's always better, I would say. But when we're looking at a life cycles assessment of the comparison of carbon emissions between food that is imported versus food that is grown locally, the difference is actually very little. I mean, over 97% of Hong Kong's food is imported.
Yeah.
So earlier when I talked about, you know, it's not about just the transportation. The transportation side actually does not take up too much of emissions, but it's really about what you're growing. And so raising animals is so energy intensive. It's so on our soils. It's wiping out rainforests everywhere, causing a lot of destruction. And that, in carbon emission terms, is so much greater than actual sourcing plant-based.
Right, so to understand that distinction between what it is that we're actually importing, given that we're importing pretty much everything. So in that scheme of things, where do things fit in?
Yeah.
Okay, cool, that helps.
So we have some different forms of oils. Yeah, so we landed on oils now. Much of the oils that are used in commercial kitchens are like hydrogenated, highly processed, like canola oils and sunflower oils, peanut oil, corn oil. Yeah. So corn is over 90% of our world's corn is genetically modified. So why do we?
This butter people just use.
Butter's good too, if we can get free range from like free range cows and stuff. But the thing is, like, we want to move away from just like silo eating, right? Very often we eat one thing and that's the nutrient we get. But like to consume a more diverse diet, really consume more types of vitamins and minerals. So when it comes to oils, grapeseed, rice bran have higher melting points, so we can use those for like frying or pan sauteing.
And avocado is also good, right?
Yes.
Avocado oil.
Avocado is really good. I mean, a few years ago, people would say don't heat up avocado oil, but Italians have always heated avocado or extra virgin olive oil. It's more about the burning point. So just make sure that we don't over smoke it, but it's always good to consume any kind of pure cold pressed oils fresh. Yeah.
And of the commercial oils, which one's the worst?
I personally think that it would be either soy or corn or canola.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's quite a lineup.
There's a lot.
So
lot of
what
options.
about coconut oil?
Coconut oil is really great. Yeah.
I find that
actually-
coconut oil is delicious, but for some dishes it feels a little overpowering in terms of flavor. Like I can really tell that it's coconut oil as opposed to when I'm cooking with avocado oil. Yeah. Yeah.
I'd only use it in like more Southeast Asian dishes, you know, so not so much like Chinese stir fries.
Yeah.
It tastes really weird. Yeah.
Cool.
All right.
So what's next?
So we have some different forms of nuts and seeds, excellent sources of fats, calciums, proteins. So when people say like plant-based eating or it's not enough protein, that's not true, you know. So in our pantry, we all stock different types of superfoods. So sunflower, that's pumpkin seeds. We have black sesame, honey, cashews, almonds, and just making sure that your intake of nuts and seeds is kind of like
So how
spread
do you
out.
prepare this? Because this looks intimidating to me. Black sesame seeds that are delicious, but how do I use this?
So easiest way, toast it lightly until you smell like kind of, or you start to hear like a little crackling sound. It's popping, and that means it's being toasted. And then you can just like sprinkle it onto salads and rice.
But black is better than the other ones?
No
Just
difference.
a
Yeah,
okay.
no difference
Got it.
whatsoever.
Okay.
You can put it on rice or noodles.
Yeah, so that brings us to here because I love making like different types of gomashios. So we call in Japanese it's like salt seasonings for your rice. It picks everything that is generally more bland and makes it delicious. So a lot of salads, we always dust a ton of different types. So this is like za'atar.
Yes.
Yeah, so za'atar is like dried herbs with sesame seeds, and we also add flax seeds to it, or dukkha. So this is hazelnut based, so Middle Eastern dukkha. So thyme and dried thyme and fennel, nutritional yeast. So excellent high sources of B12.
And that cheesy taste for the vegans.
Yeah, so good. We've been doing this thing with like cabbage. So it's cabbage season now. There's tons of cabbage. So all we do is just like slice it in quarters and wedges, and then drizzle it with oil. Rub some nutritional yeast into it, and then add salt, and then bake it. And it's so good, so good. Smoked paprika is one of my favorite spices because of just like smell it. It's just so sausagey, you know?
Yeah. Sausage. Yeah. Decadent.
Yeah. So this is something that adds more flavor to your ingredients, like vegetables, you know, that people generally don't think is flavorful enough. And then we have the nori gomashio, and I save a lot of all of my jars at home when I'm done to store dried food and to store dressings, and because they keep much longer. Yeah. And then shall we move? Oh, with vinegar. So with vinegar, the basic like white vinegar is so processed.
But good for cleaning your house.
Yeah.
Right?
And your gut, maybe.
Apple cider for the gut, but for your kitchen, the vinegar.
Yeah, so definitely no white vinegar. In our kitchens, we use apple cider vinegar, coconut vinegar as well, and also brown rice vinegar. Brown rice is great for like Asian foods.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll make a bit of like a fish sauce type of thing later together.
Nice. So can we talk about salty stuff?
Yeah, the salt. So again, like it's not about
Salt can be complicated.
especially
because
how it's harvested.
we always use things like, you know, being Chinese person, we'll use things like soy sauce, like oyster sauce. I mean, are those bad for us?
No, it's not unless it's highly processed. So
Which most of them are. because
Yeah.
you might
Most
go
of the
to
commercial ones.
supermarket.
Yeah.
exactly. So like when you go to the supermarket, you pick up, you know, a bottle, read the label, and check to see what's on there. There are things that you can't pronounce. Like in here, the ingredients list is brown rice vinegar and water. I'm guessing it's brown rice and then fermented into vinegar.
And with
Just
vinegar,
a lot.
I think you also wanted to have the mother. Like
Yes.
apple cider vinegar, when it's got that blobby stuff at the bottom, that's a good sign because that's where the fermenting and the nutrients reside.
Yeah. So even when we make kombucha, you can let it go for like 3 months and then it'll become vinegar.
Good, because mine is good for 3 months.
But it's good because you need the probiotics from it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when you're looking at label, make sure there are no ingredients. So like all the additives, the preservatives,
And
the
sugars,
coloring,
I love adding sugars
Yeah.
to things.
clean sugar, raw. Clean
Which,
sugar.
like with balsamic vinegar, that's got a lot of sugar in it though, doesn't it?
Add it.
Yeah. Like commercial brands, not the premium stuff. Because it just tastes so sweet.
Yeah, maybe. I don't don't know. I haven't had balsamic.
No, I don't eat it either for that reason, because I'm like too sweet. But
so with salt, we do use soy sauce. Either we look for very traditional sources of soy sauce. So there are actually soy sauce farms in Hong Kong.
oh
Yeah,
wow.
we should go one day and like check it
There's a
out.
salt farm too.
And they don't
Yeah,
add too
yeah.
much stuff.
No, not at all. So like they use the traditional herbs type of thing and ferment it for like decades.
I see it a lot like buying wine. I go by price. If it's expensive,
Yeah.
it usually means it's been fermented longer and it's got more natural ingredients.
Yeah.
So that's kind of when I can't always read the labels or understand what's going on. I look two things. I look for gluten-free and I look at fermented. So prices are usually a good indication of,
Yeah,
of what's going in there.
Totally. Packaging makes a difference too, I guess.
Yeah.
And then other different forms of, oh sorry, I want to go back to saying like, Joel. So I want to say nowadays there are other alternatives to soy sauce and oyster sauce, meaning that there are other new producers that are actually making what oyster sauce equivalent or cleaner versions of soy sauce. So like tamari soy sauce is one of them. Brax, aminos, or coconut matters, coconut aminos is a really good source as well.
So these could be direct substitutes for the other products.
Yes.
Okay.
I've also noticed, because I also like to read the bottle, that actually a lot of the traditional big brands, especially the ones in Hong Kong, they have really cleaned up their sauce. I mean, there's a lot of less like numbers and letters, and usually it's things recognized. So I do think it's getting better.
Yeah.
I think the audience and customers are becoming more aware and more demanding as well, and they're more versed on what different things mean. And I think a rule of thumb I've always been told is the shorter the list of ingredients, the better. So anything that starts getting into like 5, 12, 15 ingredients should be cause for concern.
Absolutely. So we'll just to wrap up on the salts. There is a misconception about pink salt being much more healthier. But to be honest, only about 2% of the pink Himalayan salts have added minerals and vitamins. So that's about 86 bioavailable minerals. However, we want to consume as much minerals every time we eat, every time we season food. So that's why we keep this in our pantry. We also have really local salts from the Philippines. So like it was gifted to me from an island in the Philippines. So this is like fair trade.
I have a really quick question about the pinks. How do we know which one's the good one? How do we know which one has the minerals that we're looking for? Is it because it says organic? Is it because it's from a particular region? Again, is it the price? How do we know?
Well, doing one's research is incredibly important. So knowing kind of like what labels we're looking for, going into the web page and asking questions and sending these suppliers like questions about where are you sourcing from, whether it's fairly traded, so whether the workers
labor,
are being
yeah.
paid fairly. All of these matter. There is no one single answer to the question, purely because we're talking about, look at the supply chain. The supply chain is massive, and the thing is like so little of it is traceable. So unless we do our work to actually go and find out ourselves, we really...
Because I think sometimes foods or condiments become popular and they become buzzwords, and aesthetically it's beautiful and it's beautiful packaged, and the labeling, everything makes it look so desirable. So I think sometimes as consumers we just want to tap into that, but we're not necessarily getting the value for money or the nutritional information.
Absolutely.
So pink salt is one of those.
Absolutely. So if you're sourcing from a, let's say, a supplier, like, I don't want to if you're sourcing from one single supplier, make questions from them, you know. The more that we demand as customers, the more that they do due diligence.
And then we share information as well. We have networks, we're connected, people who do the heavy work or into one food group or one area can then share that to lighten the load for others.
Absolutely. And there's two other things that I use as kind of like umami and saltiness. So one is this is shiitake mushroom that I roasted. Shiitake mushroom stems that I roasted and dried it. So this is super umami. And then also.
So how do you use that though? Do you soak? Put that in the food?
Yeah, so I can chop it
up and just add. Okay.
I can use that as kind of like compote for scallops. Like egg sauce, I can add it into like gnocchis and dumplings. Yeah,
actually, that with chilies, with fresh chopped chilies.
So this is the leftover, and then you roast it in the oven?
Yes, correct. Just dried it out. So the thing with tomato and also mushrooms is that it's got this acid called or it's got this. Is it acid? Glutamate?
Yes.
Yeah. It's got this acid called glutamate acid. So the more that you dry it, once it's the intensity of that glutamate acid, which is basically what composes as umami, comes out even more. So that's why I like
dried mushrooms. The dried shiitake, and then it's soaked, and then it's re-dried, or it's the fresh one?
Fresh ones.
Fresh ones. Yes.
And then mushroom seasoning is one that I use quite often. Super umami. You can find this at like Thai one. It's like vegetarian MSG. Vegan MSG.
But it's healthy.
Yeah, super umami.
Crunchy.
So this will dissolve like salt, basically.
Oh, I see. Yeah. So this is good for you?
I wouldn't say good for you. It's a good seasoning.
Okay.
I wouldn't eat too much of it, but like to season food, totally.
I like the crunchiness of it. I actually think that might be nice on a salad, just to add a bit more depth to it.
Yeah. Yeah. So here we have different types of seaweed. Some are, they're all kind of thin ones. Sorry, I don't know. I've lost myself. But there are tons of types of seaweed. Much of it is sourced from local Chinese shops. So this is a veggie link. So they do a lot of Taiwan seaweeds, like bulls, dogs, seaweed. There's so many different types. Kelp kombu is good for like a broth to start off with. Later we're gonna use this to make a fish sauce with because of the salinity and also because of the seawater kind of texture.
So
I'd like to sing a little bit of praise around seaweed, because seaweed, it seems to be the superstar across a number of industries right now. Not only, in addition to food, I think in the West we don't see it, we're not as familiar with seaweed in our food, but it is so nutrient dense and it is so flavorsome that it really is a missed opportunity on many levels. But then seaweed farming as an industry around regenerating and cleaning out waters and being used across textiles, I really think it's the season or the time of seaweed's grand platform moment, and it's fascinating to see the different types there are and how regenerative it is once we start really farming seaweed in a mindful way.
Yeah.
So shout out to seaweed.
Yeah, it's my favorite. Okay. Now moving on to fermented foods. Always keep fermented foods in my kitchen. Fermented tofu is one of them. So like fuyu.
Is that tempeh or is that different?
Different. Fermented tofu is like blocks of it that is like cheese. So it's got this funky,
Very, very, very salty.
very salty.
Almost a bit stinky.
Yeah, oh yeah, there's some sticky tofu out there.
The tempeh is really good as well.
Yeah.
So that's like actual soybeans and then fermented into blocks.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can fry them, you can saute with them.
You can bake them with some
I'm craving it right now. So then this one is a chickpea miso. So miso of any sort is already really good, but this one's chickpea. So anyone
I've
who
never tried that.
wants to avoid soy, go for that. And then this says kraut, but actually inside we have some homemade kimchi. We make our own kimchi because generally the ones out there have a lot of garlic in it, and we don't use any.
It's a lot more gentle.
Yeah. So krauts, red krauts, we always have in the kitchen. You know, toss it into like rice bowls or salads. So good for you.
So fermented foods, again, huge area of nutrition around the gut health, your microbiome, and you've got the kimchis, you've got the krauts, you've got the misos, you've got the kombuchas, you've got a whole bunch of fermenting processes which are really ancient.
Yeah.
And they've kind of come back into fashion because of the health benefits and stuff that you can pretty much do at home if you've got the patience, but you're also growing something and you're nurturing yourself. So there's a really lovely energy between the value of fermented foods.
Yeah, love that. Okay, now we're gonna head over to the grain and pulses as well. So with grains, we don't just eat one single grain. So never just white rice, which is like the normal diet. The sugar is so high, you know, normal local diet. So that's why we want to kind of stuff a bit more of the interesting grains from all over the world. But much of it is actually grown locally too, you know, or not local here, but regional. So we've got barley here. So we use it in soups. We use it in porridge. We use it for like different types of what do we use it for?
Put it in salad.
Yeah, you can boil it and put it in salad.
It's good for like in the Chinese food. If you have a lot of scars or some skin problem, it's good for you.
Go barley.
And then of course brown rice, sugar brown rice. So the difference between that and jasmine rice or different to like other rices, that the bran is still intact, so that we're consuming a lot more fiber, and all of the minerals and vitamins that we need are actually around the bran versus the inside.
So do you eat it all by itself?
The brown rice after steam, we eat it with other things. Yeah, we also do saute, like fried rice with it.
Yeah, I mean, for my family who are not as health conscious, they find it really hard. So they might put like a little bit, maybe like a third, and maybe they throw some quinoa into their white rice just to make it a little bit more nutritious. They find it quite hard, right? Some people.
Because I think much like bread, we're used to eating it. So the sugar, white rice, bread, white pasta, these are kind of similar food groups in terms of, you know, it's very, very easily available. We've often grown up with it, and we expect that in our palates somehow expect that kind of easy process, sweetish, very, very stripped of nutrients. So I think maybe what your family's doing is a nice way to overcome that. And I have a question around, of these grains, how important is it to buy organic?
Very important. Yeah, anytime that we are actually consuming whole grains, especially because of the bran outside, it's so much more exposed to what has been sprayed or not sprayed. It's extremely important to be mindful of like how you're sourcing. So definitely go for certified organic as much as possible, but make sure that it's not just certified organic, that it's like fairly traded, it's grown as locally as possible, and all that. I wanted to add also, short grain brown rice is excellent as a replacement rice for risottos.
Yeah. I also wanted to add, it's really good to add stuff like this and this into salads. Like because I'm a hungry person, because I do a lot of sports, and sometimes, I'm vegetarian, and having a salad, just a leafy salad, is not enough. So I just throw a little bit at the bottom, and just fix it all up, and then it's much more filling and nutritious.
And for people who are concerned around hypothyroidism and just gluten and carbs and stuff, what would you recommend? And quinoa is a good one. In addition to quinoa, what else could?
Is barley okay for them?
Barley has gluten. Yeah. So I've got here some teff. Oops, sorry. I've got here some teff. So we milled it into flour, but as a grain, it's actually tiny, tiny, tiny. It's even smaller than this, even smaller than amaranth or millet. And teff is powerful because it's the tiniest grain in the world, but it has the highest amount of calcium and one of the highest amount of proteins of any other grains in the world.
Is it from Ethiopia? Is that the
Yes.
one? Okay.
Yeah. So this is from.
So what can you use this for?
I use this as I thicken my curries now with this. I make porridge with it. I can
Just
bake
that?
with it.
Porridge? Yeah. You just add almond milk or oat milk or something?
Yeah.
Or?
Wow.
And
With
also
the
congee,
grain,
and
not
also
with the grain, right? Not the powder.
this
with
too.
the powder.
Yeah.
Okay.
It would just be like a little bit like sandy.
Okay.
In texture, but you can still if you want really smooth and blend it.
That's interesting. I'd never thought about that.
Yeah. So because I've limited my pantry to only source ingredients that are clean, then I don't have a lot of gluten flours, as in wheat flours. Then I've been trying different variations and different combinations, and that was the same thing with grassroots too. We avoided a lot of the stuff that would be available in commercial kitchens, but that limitation allowed us to be more creative. Yeah.
But what about for if you want to make a pancake or make like a dumpling skin? Which one would you use?
So for a pancake, we're gonna make one later. So excited! And it's gonna be a daikon pancake, so it's like 蘿蔔糕, but 蘿蔔煎餅. So we're using a combination of sorghum flour, tapioca flour, and also some potato starch.
Wow.
And combinations differ based on the texture you want. So sorghum is kind of closest to wheat. It has body, whereas tapioca flour is for kind of the kind of
Glutinous,
stickiness,
stretchy,
chewiness, and then potato starch is kind of like cornstarch, it binds things together.
Why potato over cornstarch? Just because of the corn thing?
Yeah.
We don't like corn.
Well, yeah, we try to avoid too much corn stuff, soy stuff, wheat.
But this looks like a traditional package.
It
Right?
is.
Yeah.
It is.
Cool.
I'm excited about this one because this is one I know the least about, but it sounds like
It'll be
good one
fun.
to have.
Yeah, so I think we've
Covered.
covered everything.
Yay.
Send in questions on an envelope. Fantastic. I learned a lot.
We're very happy to have Joey here today with us for a taste of Provenance. Joey's been a friend for over the 10 years that we've been working together. It's been amazing to just see her farm thrive. So today we brought all our friends here, and I'm very grateful for you to bring us around. Maybe let's enter the nursery.
Yes, welcome to see my seedlings.
Wow, 好多 manure.
Yeah. They are certified organic, and these are our new summer crop, and this is our cucumber.
Cucumber.
Yeah, I have two kinds of cucumbers. One is a gherkin, another one is Japanese sushi cucumber, more crispy, and it is more flavorsome. This one is. I also have some sweet corn seedlings.
Oh, cute.
Yeah, they just
So
came
cute.
out.
So cute. So most of the
growing needs to start from here, right?
Yeah, you see, for me to control, I also have because I need to record down what I have grown. So it's better start from one place first, and then we will transplant. This is our new Shanghai wild vegetable. How to say 齊菜? Yeah, something new and some edible flowers.
我見到上面有啲唔同啲嘅泥，佢係 manure 嚟㗎。
The same. Yeah.
濕濕地，但係淺啡色。
Yeah, because they turn over. Yeah, turn upside down.
Okay.
And sweet corn as well. I think.
Sweet corn.
Yeah, just 10 days, and this we start this 3 days before, and then 10 days later will be like this.
Wow.
You see the baby, and they will come out to be seedlings 10 days later.
Wow. So when would you transplant to the actual field?
Just I think last it can last be here. I think
In a month?
7 days more.
Oh,
Yeah,
7
yeah,
days more.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then you need to wait 3-4 months to harvest?
Yeah, it takes a long time, because we are non-GMO seeds. It takes a normal time to grow.
Yeah.
Never speed up their process.
So GMO is generally much faster because they want to pump up the growth speed, right?
We need to be certified very careful because most of the sweet corns and even papayas they are GMO seeds.
Right. Wow. Okay. Next.
Yeah, so tell us about the soil that you're using here.
You see, we add in the soil we have compost inside. The compost is from organic mushroom.
Nice.
Yeah, the residue because after harvest mushroom, and then the plant base, and we use it to mix into it. This is certified. So that's why my soil is. They have the structure, not too stiff, not too soft, not too clay. And you see, there are the structure just like balls.
Yeah.
It absorbs water, and it also absorbs organic fertilizer.
Nice.
So
yeah.
that's why if it is organic soil, they will turn into these structure. So
okay.
next time I use less water and less organic fertilizer.
Gotcha.
So that's what is sustainable. Because at the beginning, because we start the farm 10 years before, I haven't planted anything before. There is no organic matter inside, but now they have the structure.
Now that has the structure, and it's amazing because it looks like it's a rock, but it's not a rock.
Nah.
Like you can break it, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Call it
And-
aggregate.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can break it open. I thought they were little rocks.
Yeah.
So this is
Yeah.
where like a lot of the nutrients and the organic matter is in here.
Yeah, they have the structure, so they can, if every tiny ball you can
Nice.
break it.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
makes
it
sense.
can hold water and nutrient inside.
And
Amazing.
It's so amazing. And so you said you use mostly the residue from mushrooms?
Yes, and even from my farm, because after harvest sweet corn and the straw, we use a straw. Not the year for you to eat.
Right.
1 year, I want the straw.
The
It
straw
takes
is-
couples of months. It takes 4 months to grow. I like the root system because it's stretched very wide and it makes the soil very good structure. For me, I want the structure.
The structure is
they
most
will turn
important.
into it. Wow.
And how long, you said 10 years ago you were starting, right? How long did it take you to get the structure of the soil?
Wow. Because at the beginning I read books. It said it takes 5 years, couples of years. So at the beginning I cannot tell you, but now I can see them now.
Now
It's
you really
amazing.
yeah.
Yeah, it's moving when every time I see my soil, and you see here, they keep
Oh, this is bigger, right?
cozy.
Yeah.
You touch it. You
Yeah.
see the structure more clearly here.
Yeah.
And easily for you.
Now you can break it. Yeah.
Because it had moist, right?
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Easy. Very.
And so this
comfortable.
is certified organic. The way you do the soil is
Yeah,
for part of the
because
organic.
we start the farm, we plant the farm, and we need to test our land. Is it suitable for organic farming? Because make sure the user before they didn't do anything harm to the soil. So we checked it, and then we have been accredited by IFOM International organic certification. They have they need to test our water, our seeds, our soil, everything, the water pipe, even the wood, the netting.
Everything is part of the certification.
Yeah, many people will ask me about the soil, my water, but they will
But it's
forget my water pipe, even the netting.
everything is part of the certification.
Yeah,
Wow.
because it can't be toxic under the heat. Everything about farming, and even you can see my water hose.
Yeah.
It also organic. Yeah.
That's amazing, Jerry. How many organic farms are there in Hong Kong?
Quite a lot.
But you're the best one, right?
I hope so. I think because how to say, now it's more. I think at my time around 100 something. I think now it's 200 or 300 something, but they are smaller.
They're smaller ones. Yeah.
Smaller organic farms.
Amazing. And how did you start the idea to start the organic farm?
Oh, and actually, it's also another story, my family story. And this is my father's land. And now here, actually, it's how to say, you see I have 10 greenhouses. Before they were pig barns. It was a pig farm. But you know, for me, my brother don't like to carry on this business because high pollution and eat too much meat is no good. For me, at that time, wow, it's so cool, so awesome to what is organic. Can Hong Kong can do like this? It's a new idea for me, and this is the ultimate groom for the earth.
I love that, Joey.
So that's why we started, just like an adventure.
I love that so much, Joey. Like, me too. I also eat a lot less meat now. I don't eat very much meat, and so I also love the journey of eating more organic and eating more plant-based. And it's amazing to know that I can get locally grown things in Hong Kong, right? That's like you used to when you bought vegetables. You always say, "Oh, they have to be imported. They have to be imported." But I love that. I love that you have this set up here.
Yeah, because
I'm gonna buy as much of my vegetables as I can from you.
thank you.
My name is Jon Cybulski. Great to
Hi.
meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you. I am Joey.
Excellent. So you're going to tell me about strawberries today, I think. All right. I
Yeah.
thought I knew about strawberries, but I have a feeling that I don't. And you're going to tell me more. So what do we have here? This is a strawberry
We
area.
grow in rows because it's for space saving.
Yeah.
Before we grow in the field, but it takes much time to scroll down and takes much space. Now it's easier for us to maintenance. Easy to pick leaves, easy to pest control.
Yeah. This seems so much better because growing up, I would go strawberry picking with my family and it was always bushes on the ground. I don't know why everyone isn't doing this. This is so much easier.
Yeah, and every plant get more sunshine. So I think this is because I must consider about my farmers and even myself. What is sustainability, even for the labor myself. Yeah, if we shut down too much, it will hurt.
I know,
our
my knee. Yeah, no, it's tough, broken.
So it's easier.
Yeah.
So we up this way, and we also have, guess what? How do we water the plants.
I don't know. I was curious about that because it's covered in this covering. So is there a pipe that runs through the bottom?
Yeah.
Oh,
You
the
see?
secret.
Yeah, here that we have drip tubes inside. It just drip down water because from distance around 2 hands, how to distance.
2 hand distance or one big hand.
Yeah, there is what a big hand. And then there's a hole and we can drip down water.
Okay.
So it drip down water is safe water. If we sprinkle water or we use water hose, a lot of water run away. So we just
So this saves a lot more.
save water, save manpower, and save organic fertilizer as well.
How often are you watering all the time and it's just slowly dripping out, or do you have certain times of the day?
Every day one time. Yeah, keep enough moist. Let me see. It's very cozy inside.
I was gonna say this is like sand,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, but you touch it, it's just like a how to say sponge cake. Just, yeah, very. You can
Strawberry
imagine.
spongy.
You must be nice to the plant. Yeah, not only you pick them. You must be nice to everyone, even the plants. They will give you lovely strawberries.
It is very lovely. So can you tell me about the strawberries themselves? So I mean, obviously this is an organic farm. So what is it that makes these strawberries strictly organic? What makes them special? And then who are you selling them to around Hong Kong?
We are very strict because we cannot use pesticide.
Yes, okay.
We also need to have mulching. Yeah, it has to be certified because this mulching is non-toxic and
Okay.
it protects the skin of strawberry. Don't hurt the skin of the strawberry.
Very safe, protect.
Yeah.
Okay.
I sell them to hotels, Italian restaurants, Japanese restaurants. Usually, but this year is quite special because the COVID. We sell to online because online is suddenly.
Bigger access.
Yeah,
more
so
people.
we sell to different home customers.
Okay, so one thing I remember growing up about strawberries was we usually pick them later in the autumn. I think it was something around September or August. I don't know. This is my bad memory. So, but how many different seasons can you get fruit in Hong Kong? Is it just one?
Yeah, it's amazing because usually Westerners or foreigners come to my farm. How come your strawberry season
Is right now. Yeah.
Because usually you pick it around July.
July. Yeah, I was close.
Yeah, but Hong Kong is different.
It's always
we're
hot.
around January to March.
Okay.
So I think in cooler climate, the strawberry season is around July or
Yeah, July, August, I
August.
think. Yeah, towards the end of the summer is
but
what I
we
remember.
are different.
Okay, you're different. All right, but so you'll only get one harvest. You only grow. Okay.
Yeah, and because the one that depends if the weather is hot, they will stop growing because it's too hot for them. You know?
So strawberries like warmth, not
Yeah,
hot.
yeah. For
I'm like
me,
a strawberry, I think then, because I don't really like the heat either. I just need it warm. Interesting. Well, you were lucky.
The leaves looks very shiny. That means they are very healthy.
Okay. Shiny leaves.
Excuse me.
Bless you. All right. How long? Okay. So how long does it take for a strawberry to go? This one is just budding to nice, big, and ripe and ready to eat.
Usually 1 pound will give us 2 pounds strawberry.
2 pounds. Okay.
Yeah. So
1 kilo for all of our non-pound friends.
yeah, around at least 1 pound. Yeah, but it just starts, you know.
And how long does it take for these to grow? So to go from this little tiny strawberry.
End of, let me see. We transplant around October, the end of October, and they will bear fruit around January to March.
Oh, okay. Oh, interesting. All right. So you'll get 2 to 3 full months of growth. Fantastic. So what is your favorite way to eat strawberries?
Wow. I like to pick and
you just like to pick and eat? The
Yeah,
fresh?
just can't wait for
I know.
me. I know, they are organic, so just us, I wish.
I know, that was the best. I was allowed to just pick one off the vine, and I'm just like, I don't even have to wipe this. I can just eat it straight. Yeah, no, it was fantastic.
Excuse me.
See you again. This is great.
Because of pest control, and we don't use toxic.
No toxic
Do
pest,
you
yeah.
know what do we use?
The only thing I can guess is I see nets everywhere. So do you keep everything netted off?
Yeah, that makes sense. I use how to say chili water.
Chili
That's why
water.
it makes me sneeze.
Oh, okay. So do you pour the chili comes into the water, or do you stick chili plants?
We
or-
just put in the bucket and then spray, but it's still maybe around.
Yeah, too much for enough.
Yeah, for me.
Well, hopefully you don't get any bugs that like spicy food, or then you'll start to come in. we used to spray hot sauce in our garden to keep the skunks out.
Yeah.
Where I'm from in the United States, we have skunks and they don't like hot sauce, so we would spray that on the ground.
Skunk, I know.
Yeah. Smelly.
Smelly.
Yeah. Smelly.
Animal.
But they also eat all of our vegetables, so
Ah.
yeah, unfortunately. Well, this is fantastic. Do you grow any other types of berries, or mainly strawberries at this time?
At the moment, we
At the
grow,
moment, yeah.
Yeah, strawberries only. Yeah, but in summer we have figs and grapes and watermelon, papaya, so
Okay.
avocado.
And avocados. All right, fantastic. Yeah, I know. I really like strawberries. So the last thing I say, I think, is when I was a kid, my mom always told me when we would go strawberry picking that no white bums. So they weren't allowed to have any white tips. But what I notice is that all of these are hanging. These tend to ripen from the tip up to the top. Whereas when they were on the ground, I felt like they would always ripen last on the very tip. And so as a child, I wasn't allowed to pick anything that had any white tips. We call them white bum bums.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, good.
But they're hanging, they're growing, they're ripening this way. Interesting.
Interesting.
So okay, for everyone who's gonna watch this, how do they tell, and this might be silly, what's the perfect strawberry? What do you look at and say, this is the strawberry I want to eat? Is it just something that's red all over?
For me.
For you, yeah.
For me, all red is. Let me see. Let me spot.
Oh yeah, we're gonna hunt down the perfect.
This one also. It's perfect. It's red enough. I don't mind they are big or small. Yeah, even how to say, this one is small. It's also very sweet. All red is good enough.
All red is good.
For me, I like strawberry have the fragrance. Yeah,
smell.
Actually in organic farming, we also have something called sweetener to make it sweet. But for me, it's unreal. I don't like it. Even if it's never use that, because I like it, even it's born to be like this. It's good enough.
Oh, so people would add sweeteners.
Yeah,
These
even
are sweet
organic.
enough.
I know there is an organic formula can be like this, but we never use that.
It's like you're already sweet enough.
Thank you.
We're here at the herb garden.
Herb garden. You're gonna tell me about herbs or herbs? Herb's a guy's name. Herbs are great taste for your food, right?
Herbs, absolutely.
Okay.
So this is like one of Joey's favorite places. She's been working on this herb garden for God knows how long. And one thing about this area is that they're growing so many different types of fruits and not fruits and vegetables, herbs and edible flowers, as well as like veggies like the colorful Swiss chard over there, all in the same area. And this is very close to kind of regenerative farming, where different types of herbs and different types of plants that are growing can actually help nourish the soil and bring different types of minerals.
Yeah, nutrients. So is that because they're utilizing different nutrients, or is it when they're dying and they're replenishing the nutrients to the soil, the herbs themselves?
But it's also in how it captures carbon directly and pulls carbon through the plant into the soil. So whatever is, I guess, nutrient dense in that plant, it actually stores in the soil as well, right?
Yeah. Interesting. So what types of herbs do we have here?
So we've got cilantro.
All right.
We were just talking about how cilantro is like so not tasty when you buy it outside anymore.
But cilantro is that herb that everyone either hates or loves, right? You taste it, it's like, ugh.
But this like smells and tastes like real cilantro, which is so hard to find.
Oh, all right.
And the other thing I learned the other day is that when you look at the cilantro, that it's kind of like waxy.
Yeah.
That's a protection that the cilantro has grown for itself.
Yeah, so the natural kind of biofilm waxes.
Yeah.
Lipids, those are good fats.
Right.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Awesome.
Interesting.
And then over there we have some marigold.
Okay.
So we use the flowers for edible flower purposes. We use the herbs. So we're gonna pick some of the marigold for our chia pudding later.
So I love this because marigolds.
Yeah.
So I'm from.
Smells so good.
That smells amazing, huh? Yeah.
So I'm from the U.S. and I feel like marigolds are always just highlighted as weeds.
John, just wave your hand over it.
Just.
This is what.
And then just smell my hand.
Yeah, it's like super strong.
It smells way better than me right now. That is for sure.
What's this one?
Get that farmer smell. Oh yeah. I'm gonna rub it in the beard.
I don't know.
So we're gonna pick some of the flowers.
Oh, so we eat the flowers, not the leaves that I'm rubbing all over myself.
Both the flowers.
And the leaves. Okay.
Like a lemongrass.
And then we need to pick some cilantro, guys.
Oh, all right, all
We
right.
need to pick some cilantro for our salad later.
Yep. So just the whole stalk
Yes.
off the top.
So we can cut it actually.
Oh, we can cut it.
Yeah. 可唔可以借把刀嚟啊？
Can I get a knife?
Honestly, I didn't know.
Ollie, chuck me that blade, bro. I got it. We'll catch it on film. Hup, hup. Now go back. All right, come on. This is gonna be on. Oh, Mom.
Tom Brady.
Well, yeah, it's all right. But Ma.
Late
Okay,
side.
all right. So what do I? Just the
So on
whole.
the bottom, yeah.
Yeah.
So you can just snip. Let's get like 2 sprigs of it.
2 sprigs. So like, is that one
So
sprig?
this is like one
One sprig.
sprig.
A sprig.
Two chunks.
2 chunks from the same spot.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. There we go. Oh, I got 3.
That's fine.
Don't. I'm sorry. Don't. It's not my fault.
Fine.
All right. No, that one fell. It's for me.
Okay.
This is
So we
good.
need-
Cilantro?
Oh yeah. I'm gonna keep that knife with me. I'm gonna
Done.
keep- That's marigold stuff.
We're
So-
gonna infuse our milk with
Are herbs easy or hard to grow? Because I feel like herbs are always that thing that everyone has a small pot in their house, but like never gets it to work.
Exactly.
Everyone has an herb garden, but like no one
No.
actually grows
The
herbs.
only thing that can grow really easily is like mint or Italian basil.
Okay.
And that's also to do with like whether there's enough sunlight, whether
Yeah.
that you've watered it properly and enough.
Yep.
You know, so no, that's not true. When someone says we have a, herb
Herb
garden,
garden.
it's probably as soon as they picked all the
yeah.
leaves and it's gone.
Yeah, we're trying to be green, so we say that we've grown herbs, but these are
Good try,
incredible.
though. Good try.
Yeah, no, these
So
taste great.
here we have Thai basil. We need some Thai basil as well
Yep.
for our papaya salad. Now, one thing I don't know is whether raw papaya and whether raw papaya salad is from like regular papaya that is just raw. Do you know?
Wait, so whether we make the papaya salad, I know the spicy papaya salad.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that from regular papayas or what?
As in they're just raw.
I'm gonna guess that they're just raw, but I honestly don't know.
Maybe we need to ask.
We're gonna ask the specialist.
Yeah,
Wait,
I worry that it's gonna be like bitter.
if
you
they're
know,
raw?
If they're raw, yeah.
How do you pick it? What do we eat here?
So just like anytime you're picking anything, just right from like a knob, like
A knob.
between the 2 attachments. So like underneath the I don't know what you call this. I mean,
Knob's good enough for me.
Knob?
That's pretty. Yeah, I like that. But so we're eating both the flower
yeah, well, you can
and the
have
leaf.
flour, yeah.
Because this is what's blowing my mind. I think most people I mean, there's so many flowers here that are all edible, but like when I think of herbs, I don't think of flowers. I think of weeds.
But that's why they grow. Like, look at these butterflies. Look at all these pollinators. That's
True, butterflies get pollinators.
They're all pollinators happily roaming around. That's why they have this herb garden, and that's why they grow flowers here.
I like it. Anything I can eat, I like, so I'm all about the flowers.
So we can bring some mint as well.
Oh, all right, here we go. Yes. I feel like I'm in the opposite of a graveyard, but I don't want to step in the wrong spot.
In a life yard.
Ah! See, we need people like you on this. All right, so.
So nice.
Oh yes, this is like nature's mojito. This is nice.
That would be perfect right now.
I know, right? That's what I'm talking about. I'm sitting here sweating. I'm like,
so
oh,
hot
all
today.
right. And we're not even doing any of the hard
just
work.
Cut from the bottom.
Cut from the bottom.
Yeah.
All right. How much do we need?
Right?
This is great.
Like, grab like about 8 sprigs.
Ooh, 8. It's like 3. 4.
Or you can grab.
That's gonna be a reference that not many people will get. Here we go.
The count.
through.
The count. Yeah. Sesame Street. There it is. Oh, there it is. I think
Alright,
that's.
that's good.
We've sprigged it out. 8.
It's gonna be a really nice salad.
It almost is this. Oh, I don't know anything about mint. Is this spearmint? Is this just
So,
straight up
yeah.
mint? How many mints are there?
Right? Spearmint, peppermint.
Yeah,
We
oh
also
yeah.
have chocolate mint here. It's
Chocolate mint?
interesting. Yeah.
Wait,
it's
chocolate mint's a thing? It's
Yes.
not like you add chocolate to mint.
It's kind
Wait, hold on. This is what we
Let
need
me
to be
find it.
documenting.
Yeah.
How am I?
with some
How am I
chocolate.
over 30 years old? I just realized that chocolate mint is a thing.
There's so many types of mint out there. I want to find the chocolate mint. It's basically a little bit bitter, but you can smell it if you rub it with your fingers. It smells a little bit like chocolatey, and when you taste it, it's a bit more bitter.
Okay.
But the mint flavor comes through, so it's perfect for like desserts.
Ali, can I put this in the basket?
I'll take it.
This smells spearminty. It's fantastic. All right, wait, is the chocolate mint this way? Ooh, chives. I know that one.
Oh, we need some chives.
Yes, we do.
So
This is the only thing we could grow in my herb garden. So what do we want? The whole thing?
maybe like this one.
Then that?
I think this is skidoo.
I'm gonna. No.
Don't kiss him, guys.
Oh well. You're lost.
There's some dill.
Uh huh. Dill. So dill's one of those herbs that when I became an adult, I realized was in more than just pickles.
Or like salmon crab legs.
Or like, okay, all right, you're a chef.
fancy.
You're a chef. Those are words I don't even understand. I'm like salmon. What? But yeah, that like you could add dill to things and it would actually make a dish. I never cooked with dill. Yeah.
Totally.
And more than pickles. And now, when I put it in like yogurt,
Nice.
that's about all I know. I don't know.
Chives
It's just
and dill
okay.
yogurt.
Yeah.
So good.
How much of this do we need?
So about like just cut from this knot.
Cut from this nut. All right. Oh. And this. It's funny because in my head dill is so overpowering, but this is just
Subtle.
very balanced. Yeah. I want to put a sprig in my pocket.
Okay.
All right,
so,
what else?
I see some thyme there. We don't need thyme. These are like lavender, rosemary type of stuff. We don't need it though.
We don't need. This is like when I cook, and I'm just like, I'm gonna put every ingredient in my dish because I don't really know
Whatever
what I'm doing.
happens.
But we're like every herb we shall collect for our
It's an
salad.
herb salad.
It's an herb salad, so I guess yeah. Well,
Okay, so
all right.
let's move to. So in a general, the difference between organic versus regenerative farm has to come with obviously the certification. So organic farming started in the 60s, and what that has done is really pushed a lot of people to go through that certification. But we've known that there's limitations to people doing organic certification because it's so expensive, but there are no limitations for people who are working on genetically modified foods. So that's something that is so imbalanced in our food system. And that's why we want to promote and support organic farmers, not because they're certified, but because we are creating this relationship with farmers that we can trust, that we know have integrity, that they're very transparent to how they grow food, and so that we can communicate this to our customers as well.
What's the main difference between regenerative farming and organic farming?
So regenerative is a very, very new term, as you might know already. It's a lot of traditional organic farmers, or the original organic farmers, coming out to say enough. We don't want these big corps taking over our organic certification and then tampering with it, because organic certification is so broad now that, like earlier Joey said, even strawberries, you can actually inject it with sweeteners and still call that organic, which is insane, you know? So like the barrier to entry in terms of organic certification is all now to do with money.
So regenerative is a more holistic approach which benefits the relationship between everything, and consequently invites people to invest more in the soil, right up to the trees, and the relationship between the different foods and growth. And so it's a lot more, I guess, holistic.
It's like permaculture. So ensuring that you're not just growing one type of food or one type of crop within your entire piece of land, that you're cross-cropping, that you're growing seasonally, that you're ensuring that your soil is clean and healthy, so that maybe you could be planting cover crops in between seasons, and you could be adding mulching to it. You could be composting and adding that into your soil as well, so that you're always ensuring that the nutrient density of the soil is of number one priority.
And you're maximizing the space that you have available by treating it according to the climate and to the environment, to the seasons, to what is growing according to what time of the year as well, so that everything's kind of always balancing off each other, right?
Yeah, how nature intended.
Which was where we started with everything.
Exactly. So we're going to head over to the guava trees. So another form of kind of stone fruit, or
guavas are very beautiful, and they're I don't see a lot of them around here.
No, and it's hard to grow really sweet ones too. So we're lucky to even be seeing some of them.
Are they the ones over here in the socks?
Yeah, careful. So like, just look at how low orchard trees are and how they're providing shade for the soil to keep it cool. And I think I watched somewhere recently a bare land that has no cover crops and no orchards, no trees covering it. The temperature difference of the soil compared to one that has stuff growing on top is like 50 degrees difference.
Wow.
Yeah, Fahrenheit. So it's insane just to think of. That's the reason why we're suffering from global climate crisis, you know.
Because we're taking we're taking everything out of the soil to make large-scale corporate corn and soy farm for agricultural feed.
Yeah, and we're not giving the soil the opportunity to capture carbon as it should.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So really, if we just let nature kind of very often do what it does well, trees grow to a certain height for a reason. It's not just the type of tree, but it is for the height of for the shade, for the height of the root system, for the actual fruit that's growing on it. There's so much that we can learn from just observing as well, right?
Absolutely.
So why do these guavas need all this extra work? What's going on?
I guess Connie can tell us more. To protect them from pests. What kind of, is it birds that come and eat it? Oh, okay. It's like worms.
But they specifically go for the guava. Bless you. They specifically go for the guava.
係咪特別會針對番石榴㗎？
其實佢哋好多都會包咯，即係費事啲一來雀仔啦 bird 啦，二來就係啲果形咬到咯，係啊，所以逐個包住。
但係啲 figs 又唔需要，因為你有 greenhouse。Okay, so we're gonna head up to the fig area, which is obviously a very sweet fruit, but because it's housed inside a greenhouse, it's quite different. There's more protection, so that we avoid pests. But then with guava, it's right outside so that birds can come and eat it. There can be like worms that can start to like eat it. So it's just extra protection for it. There's aloe vera here.
Oh wow.
There's always something that you can see, and that you can eat and taste and
Or put on your skin, or juice,
We
or
probably need a bit of a mask after today.
absolutely.
Aloe mask. So here we are entering the fig farm.
Wow.
So it's really exciting.
I don't think I've ever been in a fig farm before.
It's not
Yeah,
fig
I can
season.
recognize the leaf shape.
Leaves, yeah. So people use the leaves for like decorations and stuff. But it's not fig season, as you can see. So there's not much going on. But then in between, they're growing these bean crops now. So they're utilizing the soil in between and not wasting space. So that's really good.
Do you know what kind of bean this is?
I'm not sure. I think Connie would know.
Yeah.
But what's really interesting is that this greenhouse was actually built in support by one of the luxury hotels here in Hong Kong. And it was a part of their CSR program to kind of educate their staff as well as bring some ingredients for the customers that were locally grown. So that was kind of their messaging back then.
Oh, so cool. So the staff would come and they would come and help out, maybe work on some of the planting.
Yeah, at the beginning when it was just a baby, they would first start to plant that. Nice. Yeah, and so now all the fruits that are born from here are actually given to other restaurants and
Amazing.
as well as the hotel itself.
How
to
old are
use.
these trees then?
I think there must be at least 13, 14 years because I was still there. I was working.
It's amazing.
That's that's a really cool story, right? And I imagine, if I may be so brash, it doesn't seem like too expensive for a big brand to do, right? Is to support like a greenhouse like this, or to support just getting some local produce into their menu and such, right?
Exactly.
It sounds like a really practical way to do that.
And that's the thing is that, just a little bit from a lot of people can actually create a lot of change for farmers, and so that's why like with Zero Foodprint, the whole idea is to, we don't need a lot. It's on every bill, 1% pledge, and that 1%, which could be on a $100 bill, it's $1 going into organic farming, and yeah.
And what's the benefit of, sort of building the structure versus,
Growing it outside.
growing it outside, yeah.
So as you can see, the orchard outside with the guava that can become really, really sweet once it's ripened. They have to protect it to ensure that there are no birds or pests to come and like snip on it. But under a greenhouse, it's much more protected. So you don't have to be worried so much about pests. Yeah.
So then less people need to take care of it,
Yeah.
and it's more efficient for
Less
the farmer.
labor, more efficient.
Peggy, from your experience, like in the restaurant world, I guess what holds back, say, Hong Kong restaurants from buying more local? Is it the obvious answer might be cost, but is it also just that there's like a barrier of knowledge? Like it's not necessarily clear where to get quantity and quality of supply that they need for the restaurant?
Mainly it's the inefficiency or instability, I would say. So like a restaurant normally fixes their menu for at least 3 months to 6 months. They don't want to change anything out, and therefore that menu utilizes the same vegetables. And if they need 20 kg of a single fruit or vegetable per week and the farmers can't support it, then that's the hardest part, and that's where the barrier is when I see chefs looking for ingredients. But the other thing is also they find that because I guess in Hong Kong we import so much food, we're so spoiled with like luxury ingredients,
Sure.
So like a tomato has to be $100, and if it's not $100, they can't sell it for a profit at a luxury restaurant. And so they'd much rather import the really expensive Japanese tomatoes or like a specific type of truffles from elsewhere, fly it over here and use it on their menus so that they can increase their profit margin a bit more.
Yeah, it's crazy to see like you almost see when you see the little tag that says like flown in air fresh, like that's a good thing still in Hong Kong, and like that like to us, we very much understand like that's not where you want to be, right?
Exactly.
But they still hold out that label, even in the supermarket. Sometimes is like a good marker, a premium marker, right?
And so it's like if we don't support local and allow for this kind of, the last 10 years has been an enormous growth in Hong Kong when it comes to organic farming and organic produces. People, the demand for organic produces is so much more than the supply that is available now in Hong Kong. And so if we don't allow for more support for farming, more education into agriculture, then how are we ever going to go through the phase of actually increasing our supply? Yeah, and actually producing even better vegetables.
I love it. And I guess back to what you said before, right? You're kind of saying that it all starts with the menu, right? You need the chef to respond to what produce is available, not the other way around, not to set the menu and then try to source like the 20 kilos of tomatoes from wherever they come.
Yeah.
So like, I guess it starts with the mentality of the chef. Is that sort of how you see it?
For sure. And I think this year has been kind of like a wake-up call, and everyone's been having more holidays than needed in a way. I mean, stressful holidays per se, but at the same time, it's time for us to rethink the way that we're doing things. Is it actually sustainable? Is it actually efficient? Are we wasting a lot of food? 1/3 of the food that is ever produced is wasted,
I know,
and
it's so hard to grow, and yet we're wasting so much.
Exactly. And so many people in the world, 20% of people in the world are actually either undernourished or malnourished completely. And so the efficiency of our food system is entirely broken. The system is entirely broken. And so how do we shorten the supply chain, work directly with farmers so that we are helping them offset anything that could be wasted, and working with the land instead, building relationships.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned seasonal because, we, as a local person, we kind of know some vegetables are in the winter. These are the ones that go hot pot, and then some things are more summery. But, things like tomatoes, we kind of expect them to be available every day. But just now we were in the tomato area, and we were saying, come back in March, come back in a month, and we can have tomatoes.
Yeah.
And then the figs, we can see they're not ready.
Keilem, you're so right. I mean, like, even when I was like, oh, chefs need to change, to be honest, I need to change, right? It's like, when I think it's like, oh, I'm making dinner and I want a tomato salad, and even if I'm, being plant conscious and I'm cooking the right way, I still expect those tomatoes to be there, just like you said, right? And I need to adjust to understanding like what's available and not. And in Hong Kong, it's like weird because, as you said,
you can buy them all the time.
You get it all the time, right?
Yeah, we've been very spoiled.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome.
Cool.
Yay. Great conversation. in this session, we're going to be making some traditional Chinese New Year delicacies. Not as a traditional recipe, like a steamed turnip cake, but we're gonna make a daikon pancake, which tastes just like XO sauce fried daikon cake. Yeah.
All right.
So
好啊，
我哋
我哋會做一個類似年糕嘅班戟咯。
yes，但係就唔需要蒸嘅，淨係煎嘅啫。即係我 mix 咗個粉，跟住就咁煎嘅啫。Okay?
So we're gonna mix a bunch of stuff.
We have an audience here. Cute.
Hello.
Hi. So we're also making a vegan, so 全素嘅，OK？咁我哋有個 daikon 啦，頭先你哋就已經
烤咗
啦。
I totally understand.
We just peeled it, so now we need to grate it.
All right.
So you can grate it directly in here.
Watch those hands.
你大力
No skin, only. Oh, you want me?
Yeah.
And then in the meantime, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the flour mix. So normally we use like whole wheat flour or all-purpose flour for like a pancake base. But we want to make it gluten-free. So this is a mix of sorghum flour, also tapioca flour for the chewiness, and then also potato starch to bind everything together. Sorghum is actually used in North China quite often. They make buns and noodles out of it. So it's a form of ancient indigenous grain.
I don't think I've ever used more than one flour in any dish.
高粱啊，
高粱係啦，咁即係高粱粉同埋 tapioca 係
薯角粉。
薯角粉，跟住薯粉，係咪啊 ？potato starch。
I can say potato starch in candy.
土豆粉，咩粉啊？薯角粉係啦，同埋高粱粉。
And today on learning how to speak Cantonese.
And then we just picked some fresh herbs and flowers and chili here. So we're going to be making a salad, so like a papaya salad, raw papaya salad from Joey's farm. And from Joey's farm. But again, we're gonna make it vegan. So our fish sauce will be made using kelp as a base. So this is kelp. And then we're gonna use some brown rice vinegar and soy sauce and coconut sugar. Okay?
Sounds good.
All right. So for the daikon pancake.
Sorry, it's a lot of work.
Talk too much tonight.
咁我哋再做個係咪木瓜沙律？木瓜沙律係啦。咁我哋頭先咧就摘咗啲新鮮嘅香草啦，跟住有食用花啦。咁咧我哋會整一個魚露，但係咧就係全素嘅魚露，所以我哋會用呢個海帶啦、香菇啦，同埋會用醋啦，同埋會用啲菇嚟整個醬整嗰個醬嘅。 咁即係我哋整兩個餸。
So herbs, mushrooms, sauces. I get it.
Yeah,
Fluent.
You got it.
Look at me. Come on now.
You're good. How strong you are.
3 different flours.
咁因為我哋個
Yeah, they didn't bring me for my brain.
就
It's
好
from
大隻咧，所以
my
好
grading.
快就幫我哋由兩個蘿蔔變咗做呢個蘿蔔蓉辣。
All right.
So fast.
So fast.
Just
Like
put me in the
exercise.
kitchen. Sous chef
Okay.
extraordinaire.
Now dice the shiitake mushrooms up.
Oh. You want to dice?
好，
Knife over there.
咁我哋就會切粒。
This is proper dicing. I'm always paranoid to do something in front of a chef because I'm like, is this the proper way to cut something? I don't know.
Judging you.
I'm feeling judged.
Totally judging
At least I got the easy one. I had to die. I can't grade it
I think
differently.
you rated it wrong. Peggy will show
That's
you.
not the perfect rate.
Well, yes. Well,
Here, go for it.
呢個手指咁。
This way. No,
the claw. I gotta make the claw. You can't cut the
and
claws
then, and
off.
then like this. Like this. Yeah.
So we have some vegan 臘腸. This is from 素之樂.
呢啲係素臘腸，你素絲落做嘅。
So it's like sausage, like vegan sausage.
已經聞到好香啦，係啊，真係喎。
Oh,
呢個係放落個沙個餅度係咪啊？
So we're going to dice this as well.
okay. Sausage.
全部啊，我都得。
Dice, yeah, all of it.
How fine? What's the
Like small dice.
very
Smaller
small?
than-
Smaller than that. Can do. Maybe. It looks like that food that Yoda ate on Dagobah. Reference. Nobody. Yoda. That guy. If you cut your thumb off, I'm gonna get yelled at. Oh, really? Yeah, Mom, get in here. Come on.
小心啲喎咧，一個一個
All your fingers. This is a good
job, Lance. Good job. Let's finish making it before Peggy returns.
Yeah, right.
Or she'll get angry. She'll get no, she won't. So we're just going to mix everything together.
And this is how you make a pancake. Hey.
Well, that's how I would make it. Okay, you can put it here.
No, don't worry. Saya, hold you. Okay. So once we've diced the shiitake mushrooms and the lapchan, we are going to put some water into the mixing bowl. So that's about 500 grams of water.
咁呢度有500 gram 水啦，咁我哋就加落白蘿蔔度。
係咪等等先？白蘿蔔我要有400 gram 啊，so 等等先啊。I need another pot or bowl or something. Thank you.
Magic off camera.
So we should actually mix the flour with the water first and then add the.
Oh, just
Get the fun part.
咁我哋下一個咧就係將啲粉3種粉就放落個水度。
係 mix mix mix.
Yeah, let's see if you screw this up like I did cutting. Can you mix
I
properly?
don't-
Whoa, yeah.
I don't know
mix
if I
as
can
we
mix
pour.
properly.
There it is. Yes.
Just make sure the flour is not clumpy.
No clumpy flowers here. Smooth. It's a good technique. It's a good wrist action.
So
Getting in, really getting in there. Cut these up small.
Oh, it's a pancake.
Is
It's
it-
a pancake.
It's already.
is it coming together?
It's looking very pancake-like.
Nice.
Let's
So you can see it's like
dump it.
sticky, right?
Dump it. Okay, then get the kids inside.
So
I don't know where
of
we
course,
can get all of
daikon
it.
is a very seasonal
Just
ingredient.
Mm.
This is a perfect time to harvest daikon. But we're closing near the end. So, John, maybe from your scientific perspective, why should people eat seasonal?
To me, it makes sense to eat seasonal just because, you know, we keep talking about wanting to eat local, which is good, right? And when you eat seasonal, or when you eat local, you're forced to eat seasonal, right? Because different places can grow ingredients at different times. So in my head, eating seasonal is just, it's another way to be sustainable because you're allowing nature to do its natural progression. Things grow at certain times of the year. And if you're only eating locally, that means you're not importing things that can be grown from in different parts of the world, right? So if we wanted to get daikon and it is growing later in the year in a different country, we'd have to import it, right? And that's not as sustainable.
Totally. And also, just from a health perspective,
Yeah.
our bodies are in tune with the season. So generally, if we're colder,
Yep.
then we crave for things that are like warming, and so root vegetables and like spices is what actually suits our bodies during specific seasons.
It also makes sense because by eating seasonally, you have to diversify what you're eating, right? So like if if you go to the supermarket, the same things are always there. You're probably going to eat just the same things.
Yeah.
But seasonal forces you to get different nutrients and get everything you need in different ways. So it forces you to be creative, which is healthy. Because I mean, our bodies are meant, think back to the hunters and gatherers. They're always eating something different at different times for health regulation.
Yeah. Alright, great. So, Rana, if you can bring the adapter.
There's a lot of
Give it a good stir, Lance. Keep it stirred. That seasonal diet.
But I don't know if we can set it here. But just ask.
Oh, that was the radish. It's in there now.
Yeah.
Watch out.
That's really good. So let's add all of these things.
Add all of this. All right, keep going.
adding shiitake.
Go spin, spin, spin.
We're
This is the witch's cauldron,
It
right?
will also spin.
Oh. A little bit of fungus. So can you tell me about this sausage? This is made from soy?
Yes, it's soy based. So a lot of the Chinese mock meats are soy based, and so we all know that the problem with soy is that most of it is genetically modified in the world. And so, like, if it's not certified organic, very likely there's some kind of genetic modification to it. Chinese have been doing mock meats for hundreds of years.
Really?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
we're not the type of tradition or culture to be actually eating so much meat. We've only started to adopt the kind of Western diet in the last 30 years with industrialization.
Really?
So,
okay.
We never used to have meat every single meal.
Yeah.
It might be like a once or twice a thing type of thing. Yeah, per week.
So maybe just a little bit like meat as one of them.
Yeah.
So that idea of like so much pork consumption in this part of the world, that's more recent.
Yeah, for sure.
Really?
It goes with the production level. The economic growth is in line with our unhealthy eating diet because we are yearning for fast, convenient foods, and which generally leads to more additives and preservatives. Convenient foods are, heavily processed.
Yeah. The easy things, the fast, the quick.
So, 60 years ago when the states started to, or other countries started to farm their animals in like CAFOs.
Yeah, mass production.
It kind of became the model for fast growth consumption. Now, even after so many years, I'd say 50, 60 years, the population in the United States is still at about 350,000.
The 330 million, yeah, about.
Million people. But in China, that grew by like 2 or 3 times. Yeah, in the last 20, 30 years. So why I have to solve this problem most urgently is because our growth exceeds how should I say this? Like,
Other parts of the world.
Yeah.
And I mean, the land in China is not productive. It's more efficient.
Yeah, well, we just need a new model for how to produce enough foods, same with this many people, right?
Peggy, what are you adding?
So we have some white pepper
All right.
to help it. We have some mushroom seasoning to give it a bit more umaminess.
Mushrooms.
And then this is like countryside cooking. Okay, normally we do a little bit more measurement, but
That is like all the time. What
Hit it with a little bit of
is this
salt.
one? What's this one?
5 spice.
Five
So
spice.
this
I see the
is
5 spice.
spirit, like this
It's
makes
like coconut sugar.
this totally makes the daikon type. Now we can add some chives.
This is the jam.
Oh, there they are.
Oh. Chop it up.
Just chop it into.
Actually, a little
Does that
salt.
look okay? Peggy?
Yeah. Great. I mean, it looks like a lot of stuff, but it's good.
Is it wet? Or is it okay?
It's okay.
Okay, great.
That's a good number.
Tiny.
So we'll add it in soy sauce.
You've made the rice teriyaki.
There it is. Nice, a little bit better. Chop, 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 chop. My skills.
Raw.
I eat chives, right? Yeah, they're good ones. Do it.
Ready, guys? You're gonna add it in.
The pressure. This is why I couldn't do shit.
Oil.
That's like kind of. We're like kind of trapped. Excuse me. Oh.
No.
All right.
Okay. Now, just after a mix, we will start pan frying.
Yes.
This is like the easy version of taco.
Yeah, let's put a little muscle in there. What are we doing?
So, as you made taco too, right?
So I'm just going to show you guys one, and then you guys keep frying, and then I'll just...
Fry away.
Or the. So, we just switch it off.
Boom.
Why don't you show us?
Please.
Let Peggy show us.
So I'll just show you guys quickly.
He will show us how it's done.
So put some oil on the bottom. Just wait till it's like a little warmer. And just like have a look at the texture of the batter. So it's thick enough, it's heavy enough, and everything is emulsified. Okay, so this is right. Conceal the heat. So it's important to use a non-stick pan so that it doesn't stick. You might need another one of these guys or
Oh, to flip.
yeah. And just let it sit there and let it cook. You'll see that the golden brown, it will start to cook quite a bit, and you start to see the sides getting golden brown.
I feel like pre-flipping is not good with pancakes.
No.
No, wait, okay.
So super simple daikon pancake. You're skipping the entire steaming process and the pan frying process as we go.
So usually these would be steamed.
Yeah, but they make it in a different way. It's like you have to cook the flour, and they use a different like mixture of flour.
Okay.
It's like glutinous rice, caffeine rice, like rice flour.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you have to steam it, and then you have to like cool it, and then cut it, and then pan fry.
Okay, I see.
It's like the easy version.
This is
Yeah, it's
I like this
much
version.
quicker version, and
good.
it tastes very similar anyway.
I can handle this version.
You can see, like, check it out. It's already like,
Sticking together.
and it's sliding, so
Yeah.
you know that it's no longer wet on the bottom. Now, what you want is just a really nice, crispy bottom.
Golden brown.
Yeah.
This is what I waited.
Want to try?
Try to flip it? No.
And what if you don't know how to do that?
You don't have to do that.
That
You use a wok.
decades.
That makes it easy.
Decades of being a
Use
chef.
wok pan.
You know, my excuse is always I'm like middle. I can't do it.
You can't flip it?
I can't flip it.
I feel like flipping with the pan is something you gotta like commit to. You can't like half flip and then it folds over, you gotta like go for it. Better to overshoot.
I think I'm gonna flip it and it's gonna feel my
On your face? I would love to see this.
So I'm going to turn it down a little bit more because I really want to have that really nice crisp bottom without getting too dark.
Do
So
that.
it was all medium before?
Yeah, and
We
now
need a
it's
balance.
like a low, medium low. Okay?
How about sides? It's very thin, so no sides.
So while we're standing here, tell us about what you do, Keilem.
Yeah.
Oh, what do I
We have
do?
time to kill. This is your time.
Oh, I see.
So hungry.
So I'm really hungry, and well, so what I do is I try to encourage people to make a difference in their lives, for an environment and climate action. So there's different ways to do it. I mean, we can do it through cooking. Like we're making plant-based, easy versions.
Pancakes for climates.
Pancakes for climate. We can do it through changing our diet, cooking more at home, eating more sustainably and healthily. I mean, we can also take actions. I made lands on the beach. We were doing a beach cleanup, and there are so many things we can do. I mean, we can do things at work, try to make a difference in the industry. So we really encourage everyone to get out there and do different things.
So it's more about finding your niche and doing your little part in your own way than it is about one answer to the whole problem.
Yeah. I mean, look, Peggy's probably making a great difference through cooking. And I mean, I also do cooking at home, but maybe I'm making impact in a different area. Because that's where I work, or that's where I have my community.
I think that's what's important with these bigger problems is the realization that there's not one answer, right? So everybody's got to do a little part.
Yeah.
That's the root of it.
Yeah, and find the part that's fun for yourself, and you don't have to force yourself to make a pancake if that's not for you. You can do something else.
No, not everyone has to make pancakes for climate.
No.
But
I'm
pretty
really
tasty.
hungry. It looks great. So, Peggy, I think you're going to turn it up a bit. It's taking too long.
I love what we're telling the chef. Ooh, eat one.
Here's the plate. It's ready.
No, it's not crispy enough.
It's not crispy enough.
Oh, I know eat one. It means it stopped heating because it didn't feel it doesn't feel the pot anymore.
Have you created
So it
the
automatically
papaya?
turns off.
Doing it now. What else can we do? What can we start?
You can chuck the hedgehog mushrooms in there. You can marinate the mushrooms with a bit of
Yeah, the regular mushrooms, just like
and marinate the mushrooms with some oil, salt, pepper, and then chuck it in there as well. Not yet. It needs to be really crispy.
We can just taste it.
I mean, that's part of being a chef, right? Is you get to eat.
It looks great. It looks very bouncy, Peggy.
It is. Because of the flour.
What was this flour you were saying? That sort of
Tapioca.
tapioca.
You do a spray foot.
Oh yeah. Because tapioca balls are like those jelly balls.
呢啲係簡單蘿蔔糕煎餅。
Almost done. I can do that the dough is actually
Tell them the bounciness.
Hey.
Final flip. Oh.
Final one. Patience. And then we can eat it with the chili sauce.
Oh. Yes. This is our naughty sauce.
What do we got here? What do we got?
Vegetarian chili sauce.
Vegetarian chili sauce. All right, let me read the ingredients. Want to guess? What's the first ingredient, Liz?
Chili.
Nope.
Sweetener.
Nope.
Soy sauce.
White vinegar, chili, sweet potato, salt, sugar, and peanut oil.
Is there?
That's all we get. No, the sweetener is sugar. Just with sugar.
There's no E321.
Sweet potato, though.
What? You can make another?
Oil.
Should I cut it?
Oh.
Oh, you just say cut it?
Oil. And now we're off. We're just making it. Oh, we're eating it. Yes. Oh.
My spoon.
Hmm. Hmm.
Hey,
Good thing you like it.
Hey, that hot sauce.
Oh, the hot
That
sauce.
kicks. Boom. All right.
Now we're gonna make salad dressing for our
So,
that we just grate miraculously.
this is a cooking show. It just appeared. Look at, boom, grated.
So
A little bit of
soy sauce,
sauce, a little bit of sauce.
and then a little bit of soy sauce with some brown vinegar. So like exact recipes are gonna be in the cookbook. So what we're trying to do here is like a vegan fish sauce.
I want to give that a whip.
So this is brown rice vinegar. I'm gonna add some coconut sugar to it. And then
Help.
kombu.
So is this where we're getting our fishy flavor from?
Yes, the fishy flavor and also that salinity that is often missed in umami-ness, missed in that experience. So I know that you are a marine biologist.
I am, yes.
Tell us about a bit of your
Sure. Yeah. I'm a coral reef biologist, so I'm what's termed a historical ecologist. So I tell the story of ecosystems through time. So primarily through fossils, I try and set the baseline, or I try to identify what used to be there before humans, so that we can look at what's there now and have a better understanding of how things have changed. So what we can do to alleviate that change and allow things to grow. So in Hong Kong specifically, the biggest problem right now affecting corals and the marine life is water quality. It's like it's pollution from too many people and unprocessed sewage and outflow. And so that's the biggest issue for the local marine life in Hong Kong. So it's really about focusing and cleaning up the water so that we can have the regeneration of corals, so that the corals can grow back. Because corals are super important for biodiversity. They make coral reefs, which is the habitat in which they live in. So that's why when people think of corals, they think of coral reefs, think of biodiversity, because it creates little apartments for things to live in. And so coral reefs are the most biodiverse, so the most things live in it of anywhere in the marine world. So they're super important for our world. You do, yeah. Here in Hong Kong, there's over 90 species of coral, which we like to tell people is more diversity than the entire Caribbean Ocean, right here in Hong Kong. So living amidst the almost 8 million people, right here on the water, you have incredible coral diversity.
So we're going to use we're going to be just on this.
So why don't we? So you got to take over, your driver. This is. We're making fish leg sauce with kelp.
Yep.
And so I've been talking about corals, which take a long time to grow and are super important, but it takes decades to kind of regenerate and bring those habitats back to life, which is what we're trying to do now. But I mean, you were telling me kelp is the new big thing, right?
It's huge. Just from a culinary standpoint and from a packaging standpoint for food and other products, it's become such a massive thing. Okay. So with like kelp farming, it's one of the most impactful and scalable ways to actually draw down carbon.
So really? Okay, carbon emissions.
So it's incredible to like see. I really want to see how this develops in the next 5-10 years.
Yeah, because I mean, so most of my knowledge with the aquaculture, the green aquaculture, has been more about algae, like small microalgae that they use for like fuel. So it's awesome to hear that kelp forests, which are extremely important as ecosystems as well, are kind of a new trend.
I think it was on Atmos Instagram page where we posted if 9% of the world's oceans are covered with kelp farms, we can actually draw down 53 billion tons of greenhouse gas. That's more than what we emit per year.
So that's pretty impressive to see how much it can actually do. I never even knew that I could do that, you know, like until last year when I started to read more about Project Drawdown.
Have you guys ever dived in the kelp forest? No. They are pretty incredible. I mean, the word forest really does describe it because you just have these monoliths of kelp plants like all around you, and it's typically cold, a little bit murky water, and it's a pretty incredible area. What did we just add? You're running?
But I love it too. It's just incredible. So I just added some more seaweed. So this is like more edible seaweed. Again, chew into it and gives you a bit more like fishy flavor. Okay. So in this salad.
All right, what are we doing?
In the salad pot, we're gonna throw the
That's all right, I'll keep things going. Here we go.
and then we'll chop some chili.
All of it?
Yeah, all of it.
I'm just gonna make noises. Bam! It's gonna be like emerald. Yeah. Come on, we gotta spice it up with that.
The salt.
Oh yeah, that's. Shout out to my soul.
Okay, great. Now maybe Keilem, you can just like take some mint leaves, throw it in there.
Moving apart.
Peggy, your shirt.
Bum. Bum bum. I don't know why I'm doing this. I feel like this is always something that people in the kitchen are doing. It's like moving stuff, like aerating. I gotta be doing something. Oh yeah.
You're doing something. Okay, we're just gonna cut up some cilantro.
Cilantro, alright. I'm gonna mess this up. Is cilantro the one coriander? Yes, right? It's like people in different parts of the world call it different things?
Yes,
Okay.
and coriander is generally used as like the seeds, to call the seeds cilantro.
Okay. Check this in. Bam. Check.
Chilies.
Chilies. Ooh, with seeds.
Basically, add everything.
Can go with it. Alright.
Some dill that we have in here.
Oh, yeah. Got the stock in there, huh?
Smells
Yeah. So fresh.
I don't know.
Thai basil.
Da-da. So are we gonna, we just pour the sauce in at the end and just, it all just sits around, hangs out?
Yeah.
Is there, how long do you let your papaya salad for before you eat it?
Well, this is not the traditional type of where you muddle it.
Oh,
Have one.
I know muddling
This
from my
is more like
bartending days.
yeah.
Slap them in.
With the mojito.
Yep.
This is more like a tossed herb salad, so we're really relying on the herbs to give it more flavor. And plus, we're also adding more salad leaves to it. And what else are we adding? Yeah, adding more salad leaves to it. So,
Okay. So relying on these natural.
Ow. Sorry. Just fingernail.
You didn't need that fingernail. Chefs don't need all the time. Oh yeah. Yeah. So this is definitely more green. It has more herb greens in it than I would think of a normal papaya salad. A restaurant papaya salad.
Yeah, like a Thai papaya salad.
Yeah. What do we got? We hit it? We do it?
Hit it, but definitely missing the lime juice, so it's going to be perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
Almost there.
We lime juice in.
Yeah.
It's very salty.
Tastes like the ocean.
Smells like the ocean.
Smells like we haven't eaten all day.
Yeah, so like eating healthy does not necessarily mean that you have to eat like food that is super expensive.
Yeah. That's kind of what I think of as like on trend is like eating healthy, eating organic. It's like everything just is priced higher at a higher price point. But is it really more about just thinking about your meals ahead of time and sourcing them from the right place, or is it really does it mean expense?
That too, but also when you're looking at like restaurants, what restaurants serve, like a plant-based dish nowadays would be quite expensive.
Yeah.
But when you're looking at, like, this is something that I often think about is if you want to source organic vegetables, that is definitely better for the planet and for our health, proven. Rather than comparing it to prices of cheap meat, we should be comparing it to the prices of free-range, grass-fed, humanely raised meat and other animals.
So closer to what we refer to, or what they refer to as like the actual cost. Like when you think of items, like how much my clothes should actually, the true cost of food.
But it's still much more affordable compared to organic grass-fed.
Vegetables.
Organic vegetables.
Yeah, for sure.
And it definitely is still quite affordable, I think.
And also when you're looking at like nutrient proponents, you're not just consuming what is in meat, which is generally protein and fat. You know, it's a superfood for protein. You want to absorb a lot of protein.
Yes.
That's what it is. But when you're eating vegetables and plant-based, you're absorbing a number of different types of vitamins, micro and macro. So that kind of diversity is very different. But like when restaurants that are pricing plant-based dishes higher, it might be because of the possibles and the beyonds that they're sourcing. Restaurants that are pricing their plant-based dishes a bit higher, they also have to consider whether they're using ingredients that are maybe processed and they have if there's any kind of technology added to it. So I think that like alternative proteins are generally higher. What about like alternative dairy? You know, that also requires a lot of packaging and frying it. But I tell you that with many years of running the restaurant, we've kept our food costs below 23%, and the bulk of our costs comes from obviously rent and labor.
Really? Okay. You can't get much more bare bones than the plants.
So you can eat very, very affordably at home, and also very nutritiously. You just source direct and know where to source it from.
Yeah, I mean, I think like I switched to plant-based about 4 or 5 years ago. You know, I used to try to buy like the better quality meat, but then after I switched to plant-based and I kept the same food budget, it was like I had an infinite budget because it was so much more affordable. Even if you get sort of organic, local, everything, it's still.
Your money goes a long way when it comes to plants. Great.
Okay.
All right, so we've achieved our papaya salad goal.
We need to add tomatoes in here.
Tomatoes?
Yeah, diced tomatoes, and then we can dress up with this with the salad lady.
I wish when I was cooking at home I could just somebody bring me the ingredients.
No.
Tomatoes! Yup.
Whoa! They're already sliced. Nice. Amazing.
Yes, chef. That was our set. All right, we just drop these puppies in.
Yeah.
I mean, I just, no.
Well, these are from the. Oh, these will be so good because they're from the farm.
It tastes like an actual tomato. That's weird. Don't waste not the juices.
Wow, this is all going to be amazing. This is all from the farm. Like even the herbs, only the kombu sauces.
It's simple stuff too. Just chop up a bunch of fresh things.
Yeah,
And
it's
put it,
Make it really nice.
and put it in.
wow, that was
Yeah.
amazing. Now that you put the bread in.
We're really going for this color palette.
Yeah.
Brings out my eyes. That's why we chose red.
The red brings out your
Yeah,
eyes.
you know, it's a good contrast to my blue. It's just, it's what it is.
Hi everyone.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
How's it going?
Hi Anthony. Thank you so much for waiting.
No problem.
Yeah, of course.
This is a really great experience for us doing this live thing. So thank you to everyone for kind of sticking around and watching the first segment. It was really fun just to like watch. It wasn't that much to watch as well.
你哋可以喺嗰邊有一個喺嗰邊睇到嘅。
So we were on Monday at the farm on Monday and recorded everything, and it was just so much fun. Everyone's interactions and so we are now on our fourth session with Janice here, who is from Honestly Green, one of the founder of Islandese Market, and also Capsule 48, which is your production company. You have so much going on, but you're one of the first allies that we had with Grassroots. I mentioned earlier, we used to be at Islandese Markets every Sunday at the stall selling our nut butters and homemade fig jams. So those were the early days. I couldn't have done it without you and supporting local organic agriculture and all the farmers in Hong Kong. Then we have Chi, who we recently met at Mushroom Initiative. It was so much fun. I think it was one of my first experiences in Hong Kong, visiting a regenerated farm. So Chi is actually piloting a small-scale vegetable-based regenerated farm in Hong Kong, and I'll let her talk a little bit more about it later. And then we have Anthony, whom I met in 2018 at the Melbourne Food and Wine Festival with Janice. So we were on a panel together. And it was funny because after that panel, we had this dinner. I don't know if you remembered. It was like outdoors. The table was really, really long. It was one of the longest dining tables we had. And in the corner of my, like, if I step into the coffee, I'm the quietest person. I think most of you are as well. But I just realized instinctively that there was something about what Anthony talked about and Chris talked about with the Zero Foodprint that really aligned with our mission and also our vision. And so I wanted to really connect with you and talk to you more about Zero Foodprint. And now we're very excited within this past year, we kind of explored opportunities to bring Zero Foodprint into Asia. And I know that you've also extended Zero Foodprint into Nordic areas as well. So congratulations for all that you have done so far. So maybe we can hop into Anthony for you to kind of share screen and tell us a little bit more about Zero Foodprint and your journey.
Yeah, sure. I'll just start face-to-face for a minute, and thank you so much for having me and for picking up the mantle in Asia and trying to spread this possibility of creating a renewable food economy. My own journey is like really winding, as Janice and others know. You know, we began doing pop-ups in San Francisco in 2008. Before that even was a term. It turned into a permanent pop-up called Mission Chinese that gained popularity in San Francisco, and then eventually we opened a location in New York. And you know, at some point thereafter, my wife and I had a daughter, and we just started thinking a lot about climate change in the future and really wanting to use our platform in the industry to make change. And so that took the form of a nonprofit, Zero Foodprint, and also a restaurant, The Perennial. And so Zero Foodprint's my focus today, but it's sort of worth talking about The Perennial for a second, where basically we started to learn the story of regenerative agriculture and the possibility of climate beneficial ingredients. And not just like a little bit less bad for the environment, but like radically positive. And so we were serving beef, for example, from a carbon ranch that, after a few years, 1/10 of the ranch had taken as much carbon out of the atmosphere as not burning 1 million gallons of gas. So just like mind-boggling numbers, as a chef of kind of ostensibly sort of like a party Chinese restaurant, these things were totally new to me. And so it was a real voyage of discovery. But probably the biggest discovery was sort of learning that just buying the good ingredients wasn't going to change acres. And so even if it was admirable, it wasn't scalable. And so really quick, I'll jump into this slideshow. Let me know if you can see kind of like a rainbow looking thingy. Cool, and let me go to present mode so it's a little bigger. So this little graphic from an organization and a project called Drawdown that I think you mentioned earlier in the presentation, and basically just a bunch of climate experts estimate all the potential climate opportunity from a bunch of different solutions. And so I want to be clear that this is not the emissions from these sectors, but rather the opportunity to reduce and remove emissions from the atmosphere in the current trajectory. And so, I mean, it's pretty optimistic, like if you're a food person, because food and land use is such a huge opportunity. So that's like a totally different message than we're used to, where it's kind of like, don't eat the things you like, or this kind of thing, that there's an opportunity to change production, take carbon out of the atmosphere, and that we can basically sort of eat our way out of the climate crisis. But it takes economics, like a new framework in a way. And so what's exciting for me about the work of Drawdown is that it sort of shows that just 1% of GDP every year would be enough to have society on track to lower global temperatures. So like that's quite a big fact. So, first of all, to me, that optimism is really exciting. And then second, the regenerative agriculture and managed grazing provide basically the most benefit, like about $40 of benefit per dollar invested. So our model at Zero Foodprint is basically working with local governments in California and Colorado to mirror some of the progress that's going on in the renewable energy industry. And, that I don't know if that makes sense necessarily without an explanation, but basically, if you know the concept of improving the grid, where, a citizen may opt in or opt out of renewable energy for $5 a month or that kind of thing, then you can sort of imagine a future where, 1 penny from each food purchase per dollar or something like that goes towards taking carbon out of the atmosphere and improving healthy soil. And so that's basically how Zero Foodprint operates. We encourage chefs and restaurants and participants to add a 1% fee and then to send that to local carbon farming. And you can also imagine similar mechanisms within other elements of the food system, like a trash company or a waste hauling company adding $1 per month and to pay for getting that compost onto local farms and ranches. So I have more, but I think it's probably worth just leaving time for everybody and getting to the rest in Q&A if people have questions.
Yeah, and totally. I think the science is just entirely mind-blowing. And I think previously we've always left the solutions to the scientists to try to fix our climate crisis. And we've always left the nutritionists to help us with our health. But clearly, chefs and the food supply chain can actually be a vehicle to solving the climate crisis. So that's why I also believe that Zero Foodprint, especially in Asia, especially in Hong Kong, is a massive potential here because of the amount of restaurants that we have and how much we rely on that capitalistic model. So now I wanted to ask a little bit, regenerative is a very, very new term. And a lot of people ask me about this. Sorry, there's like boats. I wanted to ask a bit about like regenerative, this term. Recently, I joined a weekend seminar at Real Organic Project, which was so eye-opening, and seeing the kind of founders of that organic movement talk about what organic really meant. And so to me, I feel like regenerative means organic in its traditional sense. So Chi, maybe you can tell me about like what you see in organic versus regenerative, and what is the difference between what you're doing versus organic?
I think the word regenerative, or the directions that we're going toward regenerative farming, is more like supplementing the current organic mainstream situations, where we have to go beyond sustainability. Like, for example, even for farming, organic or not, if the land is going deteriorating or degrading in a way that the biodiversity of the whole system is going down, then regenerative means you have to, regenerate life in the system, in the soil or in upper ground and underground, so that the whole system can work functionally in a way that there are more diversities and more life, different forms of life and quality of life can be improved.
Yeah, and I think sustainable as a term can no longer be used compared to the gravity of the problem that we're currently facing. So we really need to be regenerating, right? So tell us a bit about a Mushroom Initiative and all the educational projects that you've been working on.
We're quite, in Hong Kong, we are in a local-based NGO in Hong Kong. But apart from, doing education project, we also have a demonstration farm here in Hong Kong, a small-scale farm where we grow vegetables and a small quantity of mushroom. In a way that we want to also demonstrate or practice ourselves how we can farm organically and regeneratively. And then when we farm, the way we farm, like before and after our work, the land should be better in a way that soil can store more carbon, and then the whole system is more or less like how the nature works. We can mimic how the whole ecosystem in the nature should work. And then also based on what we are doing now in Hong Kong, we also start up some regenerative project like soil sequestration education project, and also reforestation project in South Asia. So that I think forest is one of the most important ecosystem in globally. So hoping that we can farm and also grow more forests.
Right. And the education, is it for farmers, for people who want to get into agriculture, or is it for just general education, general population?
I think for some farm, it can be for the whole general public as well, because for most of the food system that we are relying on, consumer is one of the most important components, like what the consumer choose and then what they believe or what they prefer can change the whole food system as well. So we also have some projects and or some education program that the public can involve and know that actually soil can be one of the solutions to climate, and farmers can help in the way. So this may encourage more farmers to think and also adopt regenerative farming.
Totally. And I think this is a great segue to when we're talking about consumer choices and how we can increase that supply is through demanding. So Janice, you've been kind of the champion of getting this message out to the Hong Kong people. And I think that what I've been, when I talk to the local farmers now, they always tell me we actually don't have enough vegetables to sell. And recently I did a little video and I was mind blown. 60 years ago, we grew 2/3 of the vegetables for our population. Now we only grow 2%. And that's to do with the lack of land that we have. Much of the land is now converted into whether it's like shipping ports or shipping container ports or for property purposes. And so if we don't give enough resources and energy into agriculture and maintaining that kind of resiliency, it can be lost as well. So Janice.
Yeah, I mean, Hong Kong is a very small place, and yes, we have had a lot of agricultural land taken away from farming and rezoned, but actually one of the biggest problems we have is that we don't have enough farmers. We don't have enough people who want to farm. There is actually agricultural land available still, but a lot of it is being used as like junkyards. They're being kind of semi-illegally taken over by maybe property developers who want to persuade the government that the land is not being used. So they start dumping there, or they start, putting old cars and containers and stuff like that there. But if that land, and if the owners of that land were convinced to lease it to people who actually want to farm, then we could actually have a bit more supply. Of course, I don't think at this point it's reasonable to think that Hong Kong will ever become completely self-sufficient, because we are a city of nearing like 8 million. But I think it's still really important to have a higher percentage of agricultural land and agricultural output. Local resiliency is really important, as we've all seen from the pandemic, when supply lines have been cut or have been very unstable. We live in this sort of, at the beginning of the pandemic, everyone was talking about this thing called just-in-time delivery. And that's what the modern society has been living in for so long. Supermarkets in Hong Kong, our shelves are only stocked with 3 days worth of food. If we were cut off for 3 days, Hong Kong would be out of food. And that is actually most cities in the world, because most cities don't actually grow enough to feed themselves. So localizing and decentralizing agriculture is actually something that will help us become healthier, but also more in touch with how we use our resources, how we choose to use our land. So these topics, when we're sitting around here talking about it, it's like, it totally makes sense to us. But to the average consumer who has been used to going to the supermarket for, ever since they were born, basically, supermarkets have been around, like you say, since like the 60s, when farming ceased to be a thing in Hong Kong. So everyone wants convenience. They no longer really understand the importance of trying to source directly from the farmer. Not until very recently do people actually ask about sources. When we started the markets in 2012, people didn't really understand why they needed to buy local. They're like, well, is it better? Like, how is it better? Like, there were lots of questions. How is it better? Why is it more expensive? All of these questions have eventually slowly been answered and become more common knowledge in Hong Kong as our work has kind of gone on. But I think this remains the most challenging part of convincing consumers to create this demand. They need to know why, and they also need to know that they can get it in a really convenient way. I think we live in such a fast-paced city. Our lives are people don't like, it's hard to expect for people to want to spend a lot of time and effort into going to source their food anymore. And yes, that is changing slowly. And I think in a way, a silver lining of the pandemic is that people have spent more time thinking about their food and sourcing it properly, and sourcing it directly from farmers who can deliver to your door and all of that. But I think that is still like not a huge concern for a lot of people, and that's one of the challenges that we faced since day one, and that we're still facing now in terms of creating that demand.
And that kind of move towards consumer habit change is going to take some time. For me personally, when I was training staff at the restaurant and trying to get them to understand why it's important to divert food waste and why it's important to, reduce waste in general, takes a long time, and that's us working together in the kitchen at least 60 hours a week. So to change consumer habits is going to be enormous. Now, the real reason that we need to get the public side, the institutional and government side on board is because we need more infrastructures around this, and we need some kind of funding around this. So I'm really interested to know more about this model between public-private partnerships that you guys have been really successful with, Anthony, in California. How did that all start?
Yeah, well, thanks. It actually just started the way you might imagine, where some people from the California Air Resources Board were having dinner at Mission Chinese Food, and I cornered them, and we were talking about all kinds of things. But basically, a lot of governments want to take positive action. Maybe they want to implement compost infrastructure. Maybe they want to fight climate change and implement more sustainable farming practices, but they don't have a budget. You know, are they going to fund that, or are they going to fund education, or are they going to fund, you know, roads or mass transit? Governments have very constrained resources. And so I think what we were offering was essentially a mechanism to fund these things. We want to work with the citizens and the public and consumers and businesses and mobilize funding from the private sector to help accomplish these shared public goals. The challenge, of course, is it's hard to get behavior change, as you're mentioning. And so in a lot of ways, what our model revolves around is almost like creating a new normal, and I use the term renewable food economy, where rather than hinging on each person making a very difficult choice to shop at the farmer's market every week and buy, you know, the more expensive thing, just send 1 penny from each dollar to help farmers make this change. Probably at the very beginning, if we were designing the whole food system, we would have built that kind of true cost fee in and that stuff in. Instead, we sort of have an unabated extractive capitalism where $0, you know, 0 cents per dollar goes towards the environment. And so the good news is that it's not too late. But the bad news is this is in many ways like a brand new concept, like many chefs, and the public doesn't even know what healthy soil is. So there's a lot of work to be done, but it's great that you guys are working on it right now.
Exactly. And that's why one of the projects we've been identifying, and it's such a great process, by the way, just to find out that there are people who are working on this locally in Hong Kong and regionally, and that there are researchers and scientists who are working on the health of soil as well, so that we can lean on their expertise and their skills, things that they have, the knowledge that they have, that we are, you know, literally just jumping into and trying to connect the dots within the food system. And so with Mushroom Initiative, I think that what you're currently trying to do within the land, whether it's through composting, so, you know, I learned that you go to the wet markets and actually pick up all the food waste from the dedes, and then you bring it into farm to create compost, you turn it by hand, and then you also ferment certain kind of waste ingredients as fertilizers for your soil as well. Tell us about some of those, like
compost. That's all right. We are starting our demo. We are starting a small scale composting site here, but actually we can see that the way or the amount that we can handle every day, every time when we go for collecting the waste from wet market is so small when compared to the actual waste that just go to landfill. And then, but instead, still, we still want to do the compost here and then show that how we regenerate soil in different ways. And compost should be one of the ways that we bring more microbes and organisms back to soil. Our aim is not only to show people how to do compost, but to know that through composting or through these kind of demonstrations, people will know that a soil is very alive. Like when we see soil, it's not like a piece of dirt or nothing is inside, but instead there are many small living things like microbes working together to recycle materials and to support life, like plants that we can eat. So this is the main concept why we start this. And then part of it is also because when we see a lot of waste that are that are totally eatable, but we cannot eat anymore, then actually the plant or other living things on earth can consume them. So we have to put this cycle back. And then fungi is one of the important elements in this whole cycling.
Mm-hmm. Totally. And you mentioned that, you pick up some oyster shells from chefs as well, and then you grind it into powder.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so much that you guys do just on the land that is extremely, it's not just about putting chemicals down, there are so many various ways nature actually supports itself on its own. And in Hong Kong, we are facing a massive crisis when it comes to waste. We're so good at buying things and consuming things, but like we have no clue how to throw them away. Or we do, we just chuck it into a bin and expect it to vanish, into thin air. And that connection is entirely lost. And so in Hong Kong, Anthony, you'd be disgusted to know that we throw out about 3,600 tons of food waste a day, and only about 100 tons gets turned into compost/biofuel in Hong Kong. And so we're still at the process of trying to set up these infrastructures to turn food waste into sludge or like biofuels or something along the lines of that. But why aren't we using the most natural ways to do things, which is turning that food waste directly into compost for our soil? Janice, do you want to jump in here and lead that conversation? What's up with our government?
Wow, that is like a giant question that we should graffiti over the government offices. I mean, waste management citywide, I mean, yes, you can have a lot of local, initiatives, and, what she is doing is amazing. What a lot of farmers do is amazing. We have some community projects like Hong Kong Community Composting that takes food waste and, takes it to a facility, a government facility, but those volumes are so low, and that's not that's not where we're not where we need to be. Hong Kong's landfills are already full, and actually the government's solution has been to just expand all 3 landfills. And there hasn't been a proper waste management policy, so I think that is quite urgent on the citywide agenda. And I think people also the government in Hong Kong has talked about things like waste charging, charging people for the amount of waste they throw out, and without really talking about what happens downstream or upstream. Like how do you charge for waste when you haven't separated them, or you haven't created the right ways for dealing with the waste that doesn't need to go to landfill? I mean, most waste doesn't need to go to landfill, actually. You just have to treat it properly or separate it. So I think, a lot of the community projects are amazing for education, but in a lot of things, I feel like a lot of these bigger citywide movements, we really need to lobby the government. They need to make a citywide change, and also to think about who bears the costs of these things. You have companies that throw away tons, industrial levels of waste, and yet they are not charged for it, or they're not told to separate it in any way or to process it in any way. Like this sort of very, we expect waste to just be taken away by ferries. Basically, it's quite crazy. Like we do need to have a policy. Basically, we need to push for policy to actually make this work on a bigger scale.
And I think like the locally current project or small facilities for handling compost are entirely based on waste management, but not a lot of I can see, like, for as far as I know, not much of the projects or facilities that they are aiming at producing quality compost for farmers to use. That's the question, because the way they do, like, they almost sterilize it, like, or it is so dry that living organisms cannot really survive there. So it's not creating the biodiversity or returning the biodiversity, but instead it's like a waste management.
Yeah, and I think the argument right now is that what they are currently turning, the amount of food waste that they're collecting and turning into compost is enough for local organic farms. But how healthy are this type of compost? So that's the kind of transparency we want to see. So yeah, we really are looking forward to bringing Zero Foodprint into Hong Kong and kind of emboldening that knowledge, whether it's through education or whether it's through getting the government to really recognize what restaurants need. As you know, we do a bit of consultancy with restaurants, and everyone's asking, and plus, like, when we're talking to restaurants right now, one of the first things they ask is, like, how do I source better? How do I source locally? And how do we get rid of our food food waste. And it's like, I would love to tell you what the answers are, but in a way, we're still at this pilot phase of figuring it out. And if we don't mobilize enough energies in this space where we get everyone to kind of push for the agenda and push for prioritizing that agenda, then how is it going to get done? So I think Zero Foodprint is a really great platform and vehicle to get actions happening along with policy change. Yeah. So maybe everyone just like wrap up and tell me something you're looking forward to this year that you're working on. And yeah, final words.
For me, I'm looking forward to you guys launching, getting the first 10, 20, 100 restaurants to participate. Hopefully that turns into 1,000. Hopefully that turns into everybody instead of an opt-in. Maybe it would become an opt-out. And then that would generate millions of dollars to purchase compost and create that whole infrastructure.
Yeah. Totally. And how is it?
No pressure.
No, we're quite aggressive as well with what we want to achieve through this. And there's been so much interest already. So whether it's on the private side, so restaurant side, as well as investment side, as well as regionally around Asia, there's been so many interests around it. And how is the Nordic arm setting up? Is everything kind of
I mean, I don't know the very behind the scenes details, but I mean, they're forming their board and kind of selecting their first projects and things like that. So we'll see.
Yeah. Fantastic. And Chi, what are you working on this year that you're excited about?
I really think that I hope that regenerative concepts, either in food productions or in the whole food industry, can be a mainstream. And then hopefully, I'm excited to see you guys join. Like start with such a good project in Hong Kong, and then hopefully, like we can work together to see how to popularize this kind of concept in Hong Kong, and then to have actual actions that can demonstrate and also to make a difference. And then for us in our organizations, we hope that more people can know that food should be grown from healthy soil. So this is what the key message that we are going to start to spread in these few years, and then hopefully like more people can know that we should go beyond organic, really.
Mm-hmm. And Janice, you've been working on Islandese and then Tonton Street Market for quite some time, and so how are the farmers' perceptions when it comes to the current growth of organic ingredients?
I think a lot of the farmers, like you mentioned before, a lot of the farmers are actually are getting much more recognition, and that's great. Like at Tong Chong Street now, because of the pandemic and all of that, it's quite a reduced market, and the farmers actually, instead of being at the market, some of them will go directly to the offices in that area. So because that area is a commercial district, and we've kind of created these new relationships directly with these offices where the farmers can deliver directly there, and hopefully that will give them a more consistent customer base, and also get more people who become like super fans. Basically, that's what we want. We want to cultivate super fans of like organic and regenerative, people who understand the importance of properly grown produce and the importance of a well-tended land. So yeah, I think I'm really excited for Zero Foodprint to be in Hong Kong, because this conversation, we've been having it for quite a while. People are starting to realize, and they're starting to recognize the importance of local farming and sustainable regenerative farming. But I think something like Zero Foodprint, bringing it to restaurants, brings it a step closer to the consumer's mind as well. And I can't wait to kind of get this conversation going for like a larger audience, the restaurant going audience. And that, yeah, I think that would be great for the coming year and, you know, and beyond.
Yeah, and that's a huge market right there. We dine out at least 6 times a week.
Yeah, Hong Kongers are dining out all the time. Like, you know, even if they're not dining out, they're getting takeaway, and eating out is just a part of the culture here. So I can see it becoming really pervasive.
Yeah, and when we first completed the life cycles assessment, which is going to be our phase 2 after the 1% pledge, I think that educational process is going to get restaurants, restaurateurs and chefs into this massive educational rabbit hole, you know, of really now being able to control how they source and how they create their menus, which is mind-blowing. So when we first slapped on that carbon fee or carbon neutrality fee on our bill, we were worried about customers not being happy with it and didn't understand it. But I think it's all about messaging, how you communicate it, creating that transparency about where that money goes, telling them the stories behind what farms are on this project, what farms are part of these projects, and what they're doing, what the impact is, I think is the way to actually get people to recognize that it's a really great solution. So yeah, most of the customers that we had were so on board and excited about it. So yeah, we're ready to onboard more restaurants. So Janice, come on, let's get more. Yeah. So without fail, do we have any additional? One last thing I wanted to ask was every day I wake up and I try not to be negative about things, but
this is the story of my life.
I know I read your blogs, and not your blog, your blogs, and I feel that's how I feel. But it's all about law of attraction, right? Like if you extend more positivity, you bring back more positivity. So we gotta stay focused and focus on the mission. But how far away are we from achieving a circular economy? And are you seeing any kind of nations or regions that are trying at least getting there?
That question for me or Jim? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go. For about half of last year, I was in New Zealand, and it was really enlightening to see how a lot of people just lived as part of their daily life that is so different from how we live here in Hong Kong. Just little things like always separating food waste out. Obviously people over there have a little garden, and most people keep a compost sort of bin, and just and then going to the farmers market every single week and not treating it like a novelty, not treating it like a special event. It's just where you get local food and where you go and support your farmers, have a chat with them, talk to them about the weather, and and it's something that I feel like New Zealand is quite on track with this sort of. It's not just a circular economy, but even from, if you look at energy sources, they're a lot of their sources are renewable, and so I think from a consumer level, like individual level, people are already in the right mindset, and then in kind of government levels, you're also seeing people who really walk the talk as much as they can. I mean, obviously not everyone is 100%, but I think they're heading in the right direction, and they've got a good population to support those policies.
Mm-hmm. And Anthony?
For me, what was exciting was to kind of learn a little bit about the trajectory of renewable energy and understand that for many years, people believed we needed to switch to renewable energy and not that much happened. And once that economic framework of community choice aggregation came into place, it started to unlock really rapid change. So now in the last 6 years or something, 100 cities and counties and states and countries have committed to 100% renewable energy. So if that happens in 5 years, any region can change their whole food shed. They just have to have kind of the vision and the willingness to establish that precedent. But it creates so much public benefit that I'm sure once one does it, dozens or hundreds will follow.
Totally. And from the ground, she.
I think like 2-3 years ago, when I first know about all these like regenerative agricultures and also how we can do carbon capturing through natural methods. I think like in these 2-3 years, like these kind of discussions internationally are really very vigorous, and then a lot of initiative and also international alliance are formed. Like for productions, like the Project Jordan, like not only talking about farming or food system, but the whole economy systems and how we can do it by how we can go toward or to kind of to solve the climate issues. These kind of topics are getting so much more highlighted in policy making or in the economy, the development directions. So and then a lot of actual science knowledge about these kind of topics are popularizing and getting easier to let the public know, or to get involvement from laymen or from general public. I think this is a very positive way. Like even for me myself, in order to learn more about soil and also to learn more about the whole ecosystem work, it's getting easier these days. A lot of free resources and accurate and reliable science knowledge about this is getting, hopefully all these informations can set a good base for us to change, and then we can have a good directions to go, not to repeat the same mistake that we had previously. And then I hope that knowledge and science can lead the right way.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much to everyone. This has been such a great chat with you guys to really normalize the conversation around regenerative and local, and helping local farmers as well improve our ecosystem just in general. So thank you so much for joining us. I know it's late for you now, Anthony.
Oh yeah, no, glad to be here.
So thanks for joining us, Janice and Shi, and we will be in touch very soon again.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
So everyone else can, we're going to be hopping onto our last and final session, which will be our pizza making and eating session. So anyone who wants to stick around and ask some questions, Q&A, feel free to just shoot it over in any of the chat boxes, whether it's Facebook or Restream. So yes, let me just get this going. All right, so we have Ollie and Tanja here. We're gonna start the pizza process. Very excited. Keeps repeating myself. So we have here sourdough pizza bases that were sponsored by BC. So Jess's pastry shop.
Amazing.
Yeah, so she's been kind of working this for the last day.
What exactly is in there? Tell us a little bit about what.
Well, sourdough process is different to like a regular just like white flour with yeast, like the processed yeast process. This requires the mother of the sourdough to help ferment it and to proof it. So the breakdown of the gluten or protein actually helps us digest the meat better. So it's generally the whole thing about gluten-free is not so much about someone being intolerant to wheat, and it's about how how we've been growing wheat. Because so much of our wheat, over 90% of it, is so highly processed and sprayed. So our bodies have become so attuned to like not being able to admit it into our gut systems. Yeah. So it's much
So I can eat as much carb as I want as long as it's sourdough. Is that what you're saying?
All of that is for
Yes.
you.
Done.
So how many
I've
days
been
did
known
that,
to love
that do
carbs.
its thing?
I think she started it maybe yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah, but her mother has been around for quite a number of years. Her mother's been around. All right, so other items I have available here. We've got some kale and tomatoes from the farm. Brought some mushrooms, roasted it. Hedgehog mushrooms that's been marinated.
You need to give
guys,
this one
pause.
special mention.
These things are incredible. I've just learned about them today, but
So lion's mane or hedgehog? What is it?
So scientific name is really lion's mane mushroom, and in Chinese hao hao. But over the years, it's been kind of twisted to be called hedgehog mushrooms. So the ones that are coming from Taiwan, they call it hedgehog mushrooms.
gotcha.
So it's just kind of like lost in translation type of thing.
They're absolutely
Straight into the
amazing.
belly. Belly
Yeah.
doesn't mind if it's a hedgehog or a lion's mane.
Exactly. And they're so great because they have that like the mimic texture of chicken or like pork, and so like no one misses
And they
it.
take up the flavor a lot, right? I guess.
So we also have some plant-based cheeses. This is Parmesan and also mozzarella. And this is from Israel. It's still in testing phase. And then we have here the, what do we call it? We have here Garden Hills pepper jack. So it's made with cashews.
Okay.
Gorgeous,
So
right?
it's cultured cashew. Then cook it and add the kimchi pepper flakes and such to set it. Then we have here a pumpkin seed pesto.
Wow.
Yeah, so you've got
That I can't wait to.
No ordinary pesto around
exactly,
here.
Exactly.
we also use like nutritional yeast for the cheesiness rather than like parmesan. Okay, so let's get started.
I feel like Tanya and I are about to knock over the camera just so we can secretly eat the ingredients.
Elbow you out.
Yeah, exactly.
So just like dust some flour and then maybe scoop out. It's entirely up to you how big you want your pizza to be. I'm guessing
Super size me.
it
Like
can be
Jon
bigger
size.
than this. So all you need to do is really just kind of like round it up, knead it. You can go ahead.
Ah, it feels wonderful.
There's so much life in there,
It
right?
is. It's a living deliciousness.
You got it?
I'm gonna.
You have that one. I'll come over and grab another one.
Make it as round as possible, and then just flatten.
It's so stretchy.
Yeah, it is.
Technical term for pizza making. It's stretchy.
Okay, so just roll it out with the rolling pin. It is stretchy. It's,
What flour are you using at the base? Just
this one is definitely wheat flour, but we're using sorghum because we don't have any wheat flour.
gotcha.
So just flatten. Yeah. Why are you tossing a ball?
I was encouraged to by the bystander.
So just kind of stretch it out.
Okay, just start rolling it a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm very excited about this.
Yeah.
So excited. I'm so hungry.
So do you make a lot of your own breads too? Like do you make a lot of sourdough?
I'm not a baker, so I'm actually not the most patient when it comes to weighing things.
Gotcha.
So I'm a chef. I'm a cook more so. That's why.
That's why you have friends,
That's
right?
why. Yeah, that's why we have chef friends who have like special interests, and I just go to them for it.
Nice. And tell us a bit more about like vegan cheese. This is like a new thing that's becoming a lot more popular these days.
Yeah, it's incredible. My first experience starting to make vegan cheese was about 4 years ago. So like we had one of the first like cheese platters in Hong Kong, Doesn't matter what Hana says. I'm just love you, Bob.
Keep that on tape.
But it's incredible. What we learned through that process was something that no textbooks will actually teach. You know, when you go to school, you don't learn about how to make vegan cheeses. You might go and visit the cow's dairy farm and like learn the process, but it was a lot of research, so tons of R&D time to figure out the right cultures, how long to culture the cheese and the nuts. So most of it is like pine nut or macadamia nut, almond.
Cashew as well?
Cashews.
Yeah.
Cashews are great because they're high in fat. And their flavor is quite neutral, so you can do much with it. All right.
Peggy, how do I make it round? Because it's not very round.
It's a heart-shaped one for Valentine's Day.
But why is yours so round?
Not our first time at the pizza rodeo.
I have to walk. Drink some water.
Alright, so I made this one.
What is that? It's like a triangle.
Hey, I know it's Peggy, man.
This is a judgment-free zone. All those are
Bring your dough game.
Let me try again. It's contemporary, right?
The dough itself feels amazing. It feels so alive.
Peggy, I mean, like, nice try, but it's not really as round as it should be. You know,
It's a first try. Just make sure it's all to do with like like you need to kind of see where the gluten formation is, or feel where the gluten formation is, and roll it.
That's interesting. Feel for the gluten formation.
The grain.
Yeah, so like mine's lumping up
Yours
here.
is like a non-bread.
What happens when you get a hole?
Just
cover it up.
Pinch it up. Yeah, pinch it together. Okay, so I'm gonna make a tomato base. Actually, I'm gonna make a pesto based pizza first. You guys help yourself.
Amazing.
One of us has to do tomato, right?
I'll do tomato.
Okay.
But you go first.
I'll do half-half.
Okay.
Oh, nice. Alright, I'm not sure I want to go on camera with this
You'll be
with
fine.
this bikini form of a pizza dough. But yeah.
What's the biggest no-no when it comes to making pizza, Peggy?
Oh yeah, no pineapple.
No pineapple.
That
Every
is true.
Italian
Never.
chef in the world, just thank you.
Cannot stand pineapple.
Right.
Where are you going with this now?
I'm not sure. Should I split it?
Mushrooms. Tissue. Wow, you're really doing the half-half.
It's not even half-half.
Do we have another one of things? Oh, can I get one?
That one is for taking things out.
Oh,
Let
I
me
see.
just push this in and then I'll get this.
I can maybe scoot up and you can put your bikini bottoms on.
I think I need a bit more space.
So I've got this and then maybe a little bit of kale.
Because that's the thing that vegans always say they miss the most, right? Is cheese.
Yes.
So hitting that spot.
So it's actually a lot easier for me to go plant-based because I don't like cheese that much. So yeah, actually not at all. I don't know why I say not that much. So I've always had a easier time with, like, that's something I never had to miss. Which is nice. Oh, so just the kale on top. will like crisp a little bit when you put it in, is it?
Yeah.
Nice.
You like kale chips.
Nice.
Ah.
That sounds very cool. Without any, you don't put any oil on them?
I will put some olive oil.
Okay.
So this might be, it's quite a smooth cheese. So will it just melt
Yeah.
into the...
It's like a soft cheese. So
Nice. Can't try a second attempt at making round one.
Somebody professional made that.
I'll use it. But I'm also gonna try and regain my.
This is Ollie did not make that.
Hey, I did.
I rolled it. Come on.
this is better.
What is your Australia shaped pizza you got out of
It's
there?
bikini, Australia. It's whatever the eye wants to see.
Do you want to go home?
I'm gonna do the cabbage next. Get one of the others. Take it up here.
Broccolini in there as well.
Oh, nice. Do we have the theme?
Which thing? No.
Oh, okay.
All right, I'm going to try that kale chip trick.
This one's gonna be good.
Anytime today, Ollie.
Peggy, I need your help. This one's gonna be round.
Alright.
So, I'm assuming I want to start with as much of a ball as possible, right?
Yes.
Okay.
All of the broken edges face it down.
All the broken edges down. Okay.
So the smoothest side top.
Okay.
You don't need so much flour. Just
Okay.
enough. Because you need that kind of stickiness so that you can stretch it.
Okay.
And it's all about like turning, stretching, turning, stretching.
Finding that gluten structure, like
Exactly.
you said. Yeah.
Of all things.
Okay.
Then go ahead and
So try to roll.
yeah. Roll and then turn maybe about 15 to 25 degrees. Turn or 45 degrees, yeah, there you go.
Nice.
Turn,
Just go get her own pizza.
turn.
Oh, it's become a little longer already, so let me do this way.
Exactly.
Ah! This could be more interpreted as a circle than my last one.
Yes.
This is a good direction.
So you can like maybe roll 4 times on this side because it was going longer, right?
Right.
So the narrow side, 4 times.
Good. All right.
Nice.
Is everyone going to make their own?
You can make it other one. Do you mind if I just rest?
No, go for it.
Tandoori style.
Go for it. I want Peggy Chan to fix my my poor work there. Yes, please.
Oh wait, I need that. Pass the wedge.
All right, and then you still do a bit of finger stretching. I'm definitely more proud of this one. Thank you.
It's just gonna be like a non.
No, apparently there's already a little too much on it.
So, Tanja, maybe you can tell us a bit about your experiences writing about climate activism. I remember when I first saw your Instagram page, I was like, wow, you have the words to actually express what we're feeling,
Yeah.
you know? So that's really so that I think it's important that there are, every one of us have our own skill sets and we're focused on how do we utilize our skill sets to draw change. So yeah,
it's been an interesting space because I think there's, over maybe the last 5 years or so, there's been so much more media attention on climate change from a number of different aspects, from food to fashion to lifestyle. Everybody is more concerned, many people rather, are more concerned about single use, not using plastic, eating more plants.
I think somewhere over the last 5 years, we perhaps got into this fear and data and statistics. And in the beginning, if people were a little bit curious, they became scared fast because it just became really scary. Like you get a lot of data sets being communicated with timelines. We've got 10 years, we've got 12 years, we've got 2 minutes, and people just switched off. I think they just became like, well, what can I do? I'm an individual up against this global problem that is so beyond me, and I'm just going to switch off. And I think the invitation started coming around how do we connect with people emotionally and ask them what's happening for them, and then how can they leverage that in their own communities. Small scale, big scale. But I think it became less about the media and data and more about feelings and more about community and more about creating opportunities for people to feel less scared, more optimistic, more engaged. So I think the media has had a lot to do with that. And I think as people working in different areas, we're always somehow communicating, be that on a stage, be that in a magazine, in front of a camera. So there's always an opportunity to get better at it, and always an opportunity to level up a bit to a point where we actually create a meaning. That's been my experience. I've really seen that over the last maybe 5 years. We've got some people, or some media platforms have gotten better. Now this is not to say that everything should just be like, it'll be okay, hang in there. But I think we can get a little bit more meaningful and mindful about what we're saying and how we're saying it.
We used to be like heckled and judged for how good our vegan dishes were or how bad they were, and that was all the conversation was about with Instagram. But in the last year especially, I've seen that conversation really change. Younger people are coming out to talk about the things that really matter to them.
Beyond food, you mean?
Beyond just tasty food. It's about utilizing the food platform to talk about the things that are meaningful.
That matter,
and also to drive community change, structural change, so that one is inspiring another, and then it kind of flows that way.
What do you think changed that over the last year? What do you see behind that?
I think there must have been some form of an awakening. I mean, the suffering has grown so much more in your face with the Amazon rainforest fires occurring at the end of 2019. So I think that people begin to recognize that it's not something that's just happening way over there. It won't affect me. But that actually what is happening over there is a direct relation to your habits and your choices.
And connecting those dots, right?
Yeah. And so like the internet has really helped us to kind of connect that.
Yeah, and tell that story across.
Yeah.
So I hate to interrupt you guys, but I have managed to make a semi-round pizza here. It might have taken me 4 times longer than you, and that's putting it lightly. But
right? It looks great.
There we go.
It looks great. This would be beautiful with some Italian basil in a bit. So we'll go and pick some Italian basil.
Amazing. I'm gonna go marinara on this one, so I'm not gonna put any cheese.
Nice. We're gonna have a lot of variety in our pizza landscapes.
Back. And then, you said I could put on some broccolini as well.
Yes. I forgot about that too.
But I think it's exciting to see that we've gone beyond the point of just single straws, single-use straws, and is this vegan, is this not vegan, to why do these things matter, how does it affect me, how can I contribute, and how can we take it further?
I mean, that's a good point. At the same time, when I'm looking inwards, because we're consulting for restaurants and hotel businesses and food service businesses, a lot of them are still afraid to take that first step, to switch out their plastic bags to
even the little stuff, basically,
is it, the cost might be higher, but like, what are the benefits? What are the benefits for me? And so they're still doing kind of tiny steps, which is good enough. But at the same time, the gravity of the problem is so much bigger than just switching out plastics nowadays, or switching your diet nowadays. So we have to tackle this problem right at the root, and so that's why Zero Foodprint allows restaurants and consumers to become a part of or to participate in actual climate action. So they go in, they eat a meal,
delicious meal. They're educated throughout that meal. They pay a 1% off of their bill. That 1% directly funds regenerative farming and regenerative projects that helps draw down carbon. And we can quantify that and equate that into numbers. And that, to me, is the immediate thing we need to do in the food and beverage sector as well, other than education.
But that's a really good point, because I think people are, when I speak to hotel industry people, they don't even want to have that conversation because they're scared they're going to put themselves in the line of fire. They think that unless I'm 100% solid with front of house and back of house, I don't want people to start digging around there.
Yeah.
So they don't even want to do that.
And it's hard. I mean, we're at no point in time now for judgments. You know? We have to adopt a non-judgmental mindset. Everyone just needs to do something every day.
I agree, right? And I think like across industries, right, food included, right? It's like I think some of the brands also that I respect most are those that are sort of, they share with you that they're on a journey, right? It's like we know we're not perfect, we're starting here. And like these are tangible steps you can take now. These are tangible things we're doing, etc. Here's where we're going, and we're very transparent about where we are and where we want to go, right? And that's like remove the judgment and start the journey, sort of thing, right?
Exactly.
I also think that if people maybe, you know, throughout the whole sustainability conversation, there's been a lot of virtue signaling, like I am better than you because I don't do this. And I think we're at that point where it's not really even about us. This is way bigger. And it's not about what Tanja does or what Ollie does, or it's bigger. And I think we can get ourselves out of the equation, kind of move out of our own way and just kind of put things out as a conversation, not an end and a beginning with the middle, and we don't know where it goes, but we do know that we should be asking better questions. And through media and through language, and not just words. I mean, every single one of us all the time is communicating, whether it's right here between amongst ourselves, if it's a photograph, if it's a word, if it's a hashtag, there are a million
nice pizza.
Yeah.
Bikini bottom pizzas.
Speaking of, all right.
Whoa.
So
The pesto is
Nice.
snuck in there.
Ooh, that pesto came out really nice.
we have to really try this.
Excellent.
Gorgeous. Okay, so these.
We could put these in.
Yeah. You can put mine up. I'm gonna cut this up so
Okay,
everyone
can I give
gets
you
to
this
try.
one? Thank you. And maybe the.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
I love the way the oil of the pesto has sunk into the crust.
John, that's a good look for you.
just shipping food over here. John, that's good.
Wow.
Keep it coming.
Keep it coming. Keep it coming.
That is incredible. So do you eat cheese?
Yeah.
Okay, you eat it.
Got one more
Wow. Do you want a photo? And look at that ash.
here. Nice. Tanya's got
Oh,
a
the
diversity
tomatoes.
theme going on there. I like it.
Very inclusive pizza.
Yeah.
So hot.
Peggy, as you labor away, I realize there's a simple question that I don't know the answer to. When did you start your plant-based journey?
21 years ago now.
Yeah. Was it an environmental thing? Was it a health thing? Was it all of the above? Was it
It started off as more of an animal welfare and kind of health religion related, because I had really bad temper when I was a teenager.
Oh wow.
I had gone through so much like internal issues. So for me it was like a way to calm myself down. Like I don't know if it's a Chinese thing, but people say like to temper yourself you should remove like meat from your diet, especially and religion, because when you're eating meat it equates to like you not respecting your parents.
Is this Buddhism or is it just something
it's Chinese Buddhism. So, but mostly animal welfare. It just didn't make
That's
sense
like
for me
the starting
to.
point,
Yeah, it just didn't make sense for me to be eating something that is like a living, breathing creature. So So that's how I started. And then it was like through 7 years of experimenting, learning how to adopt more like balanced whole food plant-based diet. That's when I turned vegetarian.
It's amazing. I think that's the sort of cool thing about it, right? Is I think you can kind of angle your way in from a different argument, but suddenly all the arguments are complementary, right? It's like I started looking at it from more an environmental perspective, and then also a like, hey, I don't trust the food industry perspective, right? I never looked at it from a health perspective. But then I was like, hey, I do feel different. Or I think the biggest thing for me is that like it made me a lot more going plant-based or majority plant-based in my business made me a lot more conscious about my balance, right? I was like, oh, hey, I didn't eat protein today, right? And then I sort of started thinking more about, hey, what am I, how am I balancing my diet? What am I? And so that's, I sort of like how the plant-based journey fits in a few, or you can come at it from a few different angles, but they're all thinking about it.
You can start to ask questions and question things yourself first, and then do the research so that you're more aware and more sure of like your choices, right? Before you're able to kind of advise other people.
I think those are like the three main entry points: is animal welfare, environment, and personal health. And when I read that book by Jonathan Safran Foer, Eating Animals, I was like, I'm done with this.
I haven't read this.
So he's a fiction writer, but he wrote, when he had his first child, he started exploring is he going to give his child meat or not?
Yeah.
What is involved in farming and what's involved in animal agriculture. So he did this research to lots of different types of farms, organic farms, large scale, small scale, and basically just really looking at what happens behind the closed doors.
Yeah.
And it's not pretty.
Yeah.
All right, shall we?
Yes.
Yes. Because this is pretty.
This looks so like
it's fun.
Guys, come.
Guys, dig in.
Actually, no, guys, you can stay there.
This is like my playground, Like the kitchen is where I do my thing, but then like this is my playground. It's fun, like always exploring, asking questions, and you're always learning. Just going through around with Farmer Joey, you learn so much. So it's awesome to have you guys here.
Thanks for inviting us.
I mean, the food was pretty good too.
Yeah.
Produce, subpar. But the experience, it's been great.
It was amazing. Thank you so much.
I hope you'll take those recipes to use at home. So fish sauce, we have this recipe on there. Kind of like different pesto sauces.
Thank you so much.
Definitely use those recipes in our cookbook.
So all the recipes that we did today in your cookbook,
Yeah.
book and ebook,
Yes.
The book
cookbook
is-
and it's printed now.
printed book and ebook, which is awesome.
And you get credit for the ones you cooked.
And I get credit for the ones I cooked. I don't want to point out the ones I cooked,
as
just everything I said.
And you get to sign the page.
Chef John.
But just thank you so much for your sharing as well and your experiences to help continue our work. We have a lot of work ahead of us. Go team, we're ready.
All right, so we have Maggie and I back here just to say goodbye and thank you so much for allowing us to do this. But thank you to everyone, Cherry, Shelly, Janice, and Isaac, as well as her daughter, who helped to get some of the videos going at the beginning, and also Vivian Kong. Then with this session, we had Tanja, Keilem. I'm so bad with like names when I have to list them out. It's really weird. It's like my brain is not working that way. Keilem, Tanja, John, Ollie, and Lance who joined for the session, and everyone behind the scenes. As you can see, we were like, Maggie, we have Tarana, Meiji, Joel, and Christy. So everyone came to get this done together. We are at our final 2.5 days, I think, of pledging, and thank you so much to people who have just came in to do these massive pushes. Thank you so much. Thanks, Sam. And it's awesome. Just let's see how it goes. Yeah.
Yeah. This is very exciting. Thank you for staying until now, Saul. Saul, is that how you pronounce your name?
Yeah.
Yeah, Saul. And just for those of you who are still on, if you would like to share this with your friends, we will have this live stream recording on the Taste of Provenance YouTube channel forever. So you guys can tune in and come back and watch it again anytime. And if there's any of these things that you want to share with your friends, all the information that we're discussed today, this is a reference that you could send to people in the future.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we're using all of the recipes that are inside the cookbook, so you can sign on and make sure that you guys use it.
Yeah.
Anything else? Yeah. So with that said, we're gonna wrap up today. I know that there's been a lot of interest with others wanting to continue this cook and chat session, so the cook-alongs. So we'll see if that's possible in the future. But thank you to everyone so far for your contributions, and we'll see you soon. Bye.